right, this is King Bucho. Welcome to BDA Boxing, the Boxing Debate Arena. We have a very interesting show because we're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about the fights that are taking place this Friday. Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. In the undercard, there's also Joseph Parker versus Zhilei Zhang. And there's a bunch of news or rumors going around about Canelo's next fight. So we're going to be talking about that. The phone lines are already open. The phone lines on your screen. And let's first give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Handsome Mechanic, Mr. Dodo 117, Uriah Smith, Isaac Bermudez, who else? Dark Hadu, Jump Tube, super chat from Skull Kid. I think it's his first super chat, so thank you for that. He says, get an interview with Rick Glazer on Canelo Benavidez fiasco BDA. We need to get Rick Glazer on. That would be great. All right, we have already some people here on Discord. We have Mr. BDA, we have Jimmy, and Recognize the Matrix. Guys, welcome to the show. All right, so we're gonna be taking down predictions. Guys, yo, what's up? What's up? I wasn't planning on talking about Canelo, but apparently there's news coming out about Canelo, so maybe we should get that out of the way. Guys, what have you been hearing about Canelo versus Munguia? And apparently it's going to be on The Zone and on Amazon Prime. Hey,
what?
Jimmy, yeah, it's kind of weird. Jimmy, are you there? Jimmy must know about this.
Oh, who is he fighting that he's
going to
be?
He will be fighting Munguia.
Okay, so with the fight against Munguia, it's going to be telecasted between
both
The Zone
and
Amazon.
Yeah.
So is he doing that because he's living? I guess he has to honor the contract that he has with PBC. Is that what's going on?
That's a good point, because why would he need to fight on Amazon Prime
unless he's got his own? Because like he left. Apparently, he left.
Okay. What happened was that supposedly the whole thing that they couldn't come up with the money in time at the PBC, the escrow. So Canelo said goodbye. He just left. Then something happened over the zone. According to Rick Glazer, supposedly says there was a disagreement or a fallout between Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, who's Canelo's trainer. Other people say that the zone tried to say, okay, we'll give you one fight, but it's 25 mil, not 35. Again, those are the two rumors that I heard. And so Canelo's now renegotiating with the PBC. And apparently it would be for the Munguia fight, like they wanted to initially, but they just couldn't come up with the money in time. And so now we would probably with the PBC, but at the same time, Amazon, because they're aligned with Golden Boy Promotions, or Zanfer, whatever, that promotes Munguia, they're the ones that would also co-promote the fight. So turns out Rick Glazer might have been right, contrary to what some people were saying a couple of days ago.
Sounds crazy to me. Sounds like a big mess almost, so who knows? I told you guys, I like that fight. I know stylistically, it looks like he might be tailor-made for Canelo, but Munguia's strong, he's big, he's young, he throws more punches. It could be a good fight while it lasted, and I think he'll be coming to win. Most importantly, he'll be coming to knock Canelo's head off. Now he might get his head knocked off. More likely that's what will happen, but it should be an interesting fight if it
Jimmy said
takes place.
Munguia is quite dangerous.
He is.
Dangerous than what people think. Now, of course, people that call us Canelo fanboys are gonna be saying, "Oh, you're defending this fight. You know damn well that that Munguia has no chance against Canelo." I mean, I'm just saying that's what Jimmy said, and I respect Jimmy's opinions. He knows a lot about boxing. He says that Munguia is more dangerous. Now, of course, we all agree that we want to see the Benavidez fight, but unfortunately, because of negotiations, this fight's not happening yet. But by the way, Benavidez was asked if he would cross the street to fight Canelo, and he said no, that he would not.
I almost get the feeling he understands what to say, like working for Al Haymon. So he would never say yeah, I'll go across the street unless Al Heyman advises them to say, look, let them know that we're interested in like doing, going wherever to a different network, right, or a different platform. Then he would do it. But as long as he's not given the okay, he's being promised like, don't worry, this fight's gonna happen. It's gonna happen on our platform and with me, so don't worry about that. So he won't say, yeah, I'll cross the street and leave the PBC behind to fight Canelo.
Yeah, and did you see the way they worded it too, guys? They said, "Would you get your contract bought out?" Just the way that question was, put to him. It doesn't have to be bought out. He doesn't, like Eddie Hearn says, we're not expecting you to sign, unlike the PBC, who wants everybody to sign 3-fight deals to come fight on their fucking shitty promotion. They're saying just come over and fight once, and it's fuck no. And here's another thing. Even now, where they're trying to get Canelo back, because again, that 3-fight deal is squashed. Like he couldn't even go back now and say, like, okay, I'll take it again. Once it's gone, it's gone. That thing is torn up. That original Fight 3 deal is done. They'd have to actually redo a whole new one. And here's the thing. Benavidez was never offered to him the first time. And Benavidez isn't being offered to him the second time. They're offering him Munguia, which I don't know how they can offer him that. He's not like Eddie Hearn said, he's not a fucking PBC fighter. He's DAZN. And then the second one, again, is Jamal in September, which I cannot fucking even stand the thought of them entertaining that fight. Bucho, but if you give me 1 second, I just want to address the one thing about that. The other night when we had a caller, I forget his name, exactly who it was, but he was saying how Dan Rafael was stating that, I forget exactly what he said, but he was basically saying Canelo was ducking Benavidez. Well, I have the video of Dan Rafael straight up saying the PBC screwed the pooch or dropped the ball. They did try to change the money in the fighter, not just the money, but also the fighter. It went down like this. They offered 3 names for $35 million apiece. Because Errol Spence, and has a lot to do with it, the names were Jamal and Jamel Charlo. The third fight was supposed to be Spence, but when Spence got his head kicked in and completely blown that whole thing up, so now they're kind of screwing, like, what do we do? Even then, they didn't offer Benavidez. But what happened is after he beat Jamel so handedly, and it made for such a horrible fight, the PBC knew that, oh shit, we can't give him $35 million. This second fight won't sell. But instead of them taking the beating financially, and then going forward, when they reached out to Canelo first, it took 2 months to get the money. They asked for an extension for 10 days for the escrow. They did get, Canelo was caught, he said, yes, I'll give you the extension. They called, said, we got the money, but here's the thing. We're not going to put in escrow until you agree on taking a haircut on the money because this fight won't sell. And that's when Canelo said, fuck you. And that's Steve Kim reporting in Dan Rafael. But Steve actually goes and says, this is the term he used, this comes from somebody who is intimately involved on the negotiations. And I have the tape, so if anybody wants to. So the whole narrative of him ducking Benavidez is unmitigated bullshit. He was never offered the fight. His name was never brought up. And when they offered it to Benavidez to go to the zone, you heard what he said, fuck no. And I agree with my guy, Recognize. Fucking, I don't think it's that much worse of a fight. Munguia does his damage at length. Benavidez has to be up close and personal, which would make him more receptive to a Canelo punch. So, yes, that was my spiel.
But yeah, these people claim that... but hold on, just super chat. Chris K, thank you for your super chat. He says, Ngannou by armbar. Jaime Goro Munguia by fatality. All right. Interesting predictions. I forgot we call Munguia Goro. Go ahead, Mr. Vidier.
That's right. It's interesting. First of all, Jimmy reiterated what Benavidez said about going to the zone, and I think Jimmy, you could have made your point without repeating the curse word. I'm just saying, slight little criticism there. Number 2, look, is Canelo avoiding Benavidez? At this point, I don't even know what's going on with these negotiations. 1 week, Ray Glacier's right. Then it appears as if he might have been wrong. Then it turns out he is right. Now they're saying that this deal with Amazon, renegotiating a deal with PBC, but it would be for one fight. Again, probably because they can't afford the guy for 3 more fights or 2 more fights. Then it's Munguia, and there's not going to be a Charlo fight. Apparently, that's what the Coppinger said about 2 hours ago. He said that if Canelo's renegotiating with the PBC, it's for the Munguia fight. 1 fight deal, no more Charlo fight. That's as if that's what they were talking about. So, I mean, again, at this point, everything's changing every 3-4 days. And we got an Ngannou-Joshua fight coming up, which I'm intrigued for. It's going to be on a Friday, and it's $40. Not 75, not 85, not 100. $40.
40, nice. And did you hear Eddie Hearn, Mr. B-Day, what he said about that too? And I think he was kind of... What's that?
Go ahead,
well, did you hear what he said? He kind of hinted, and I take this as almost like he's going to make the negotiations difficult because when approached, and did everybody end up hearing what happened? Supposedly, this is how it went down. Eddie Hearn insulted Reynoso, basically said during, and probably maybe got heated a little bit, about the negotiations, and basically said to him, "You're just a trainer." I don't know in what terms that was said to him. But Reynoso, having run this kid's career from the get-go, every aspect of it, took that as a slight, and I don't blame him. But if that's the reason they're turning around now and going running back to Al Haymon, that's a little fucked up. But then Eddie Hearn did say, kind of hinted at, like, well, I don't know how that's going to go down so easy. After all, he's with Golden Boy, who's with us. In his last, I believe, his last 9 fights, going back to 2019, has been on DAZN. To me, he's saying, it's not going to be that easy to just have him go over to PBC. Meaning, if Canelo does turn around now and, kind of say, fuck you, I'm going back to Al Haymon, I don't think they're going to be willingly giving Munguia over to him as easy as they thought.
Jimmy, I found a tweet. Somebody posted it on Discord. Thank you for whoever did that. From Izquierdazo Boxeo. It says, it's in Spanish, but it says, we're going for 2 platforms. This, apparently, Guillermo Brito, executive of Sanfer, said that the fight against Munguia, the Canelo-Munguia fight, will be on DAZN and on Amazon Prime. At the same, does that even make sense, Jimmy?
No, because you would be getting 2 different price points. DAZN's not going to charge $75 if you're a subscription holder, right? Unless they're talking about 2 different regions. But say I live in America. If DAZN is offering it, but only in Europe and other places for 60 or 45 or whatever, but now because I have to see it on the PBC platform and I have to pay 80 plus tax, fuck you. You know what I mean?
So when they did
it with, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, yeah, when they did it with Garcia, Tank Davis.
Yeah, in Canada, it was on DAZN. It was only in the US where it was Showtime who broadcasted the fight, and in the rest of the world it was DAZN. So that's kind of weird, but
so Jimmy's right. So Jimmy's right. If it's 2 different zones. But wait a minute. But in Mexico, it's not like in which. So we're talking the UK probably, right? Because Mexico is going to be free over there.
Canada, UK, maybe in the US it's Prime, and outside the US it's DAZN, and Mexico would be, I don't know, Azteca.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That's so weird. Like Jimmy said. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
And none of this saves the PBC's bacon, by the way. They have no fights planned. None. They're saying that the first fight that won't be behind a paywall won't be until June or July. This time last year they had 5 fights already on PBC. They've had none. The first fight they are showing, Sue versus Thurman behind a paywall. Why is that? Because it's short money and they're still expecting fans to finance it. So things aren't good over there either way. And even having Canelo fight Munguia, if they can make that happen, is not going to save that platform. Because, again, it's just a streaming agreement. They are not receiving money for the fights. And I would just like that guy to call back who called last week because we have all the tape. And it was not exactly like people were saying. And my thing with Benavidez is this, dude. I'm tired of listening to you talk about you've been hanging on your career for fucking 3 years, like you've been like Canelo's ducking you, and then to come to find out you haven't even been. You never asked the WBC to sanction you as number 1 or sanction you as a mandatory. You were just the number 1 ranked. You were never his mandatory. Your people have never asked for it. That comes from Suleiman's mouth. And then the fact when you're asked directly, will you go to DAZN and fight the man? fuck no. And I apologize to the Crimson.
Yeah, Jimmy, like you
Cross
said,
that, cussing, but
why can't he do it for one fight? Like you said, there's no need to buy out the contract and all that stuff. Like you just go out there, you go for one fight. You're fighting Canelo anyways. You're not the A side. Oh, now all of a sudden there's no such thing as an A side apparently. And Canelo has to do all the work. He has to take a pay cut. He has to go to the PBC. These people are insane.
Yep, exactly. He's the only one who's allowed to, get the bag or watch his money. People even when they found out that the PBC positively reneged, and again, it's not like Steve said, well, I heard, this is my speculation. The wording is important here. He said, I was told by somebody intimately involved in the negotiations what happened, and this is what happened. They changed the terms, both the fighter and the money. And Canelo said, fuck you. And of course, they used, well, then we mutually decided to part ways. No, you didn't. It's like a guy walking in going, I fucking quit, turn around, walking out your office, and you opening the door for all the other employees hear you. Okay, we don't want you here anyway. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly, it seems like it's mutual. It's not mutual at all. You fucked up. You try to hardball him. You thought you were going to treat fucking this Mexican like you do all the other Mexicans over at the PBC. But this one told us to go fuck yourself because I got all the power.
Two things. Shout out to Michael Poe in the chat. He says that last time he called in, people were saying that he sounded drunk. Mr. Poe, you have to remember that this chat is filled with animals. Anytime somebody says something, these people, I mean, when NPR guy calls in, people call him the Zodiac Killer now. People say that I'm a trampire. That's a tranny that only walks out at night. So, I mean, people, this chat is going to make fun of everybody. They don't like anybody. So, and that's why we like them. But number two.
I'd be right about that. Well,
Hey, come on, now, wait a minute. But watch it now. But to, in this point, in regards to this whole PBC thing, look, this PBC thing might actually end up working out in our favor, at least for the short term, because we saw what happened last year when they knew they were on the chopping block, Showtime that is, or PBC on Showtime. Because Rick Glacier had talked about that in 2022. He said, look, 2023 is a year when Showtime, boom, kaput. And indeed it was true. That's why they signed Canelo, not thinking long-term, just thinking short-term. Saying, hey, if we get Canelo and Crawford, we can use that to sell that to whichever promoter we get next or whichever network we got next. Like, hey, look at us. We got the face of boxing, Canelo Alvarez, and one of the pound-for-pound best in Terence Crawford. But now, of course, long-term, they're not doing all that well, but there's a rumor that supposedly there's going to be a mega card, pay-per-view card, somewhere down the June, July, which is going to feature Tank Davis versus Benavidez. Now, again, it's difficult to know now with the PBC whether they're just floating these stories out.
What? Tank who?
Lackeys.
Tank and Benavidez? What? You said Tank and Benavidez.
On the same card.
Oh, okay.
On the same card. Now, it's difficult to know at this point if the PBC is just floating these stories to their lackeys on Twitter to try to generate some sort of buzz and maybe try to, because maybe the PBC is still looking for investors and they're trying to create some buzz to attract them. But according to Rick Glacier says that's not happening. And but the reason why I say that this might all work in our favor is because if they're desperate, just like they were in 2023, they might make some good fights. Now look, last year there were some fights that they put on pay-per-view that shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. For example, both Benavidez fights. They shouldn't have been pay-per-view, and they did horribly on pay-per-view. We're talking Benavidez Plant and Benavidez Android. But if they do this Gvozdyk Benavidez fight and then Tank Davis against, let's say, Frank Martin or even, what was the other name that we're talking about? Oh, Rayo Valenzuela. If it's Rayo, no, I'm not going to watch that. But if it's Frank Martin, hey, by themselves, neither of those two fights is good enough for pay-per-view. But if it's on the same card, I might buy it. Now, it's not going to be $40 like they're doing on the zone because they're being subsidized by the Saudis. But if it's $80 and you got Tank Davis against Frank Martin and Gvozdyk against Benavidez and maybe 2 other dudes on there or 4 other guys, I don't know. So this could work to our advantage for as long as the PBC lasts on Amazon.
Plus they can hide Tank's horrible fucking pay-per-view numbers, because seriously, they can hide it because it's Benavidez and Gvozdyk too. So really who it was, because standalone fight, Tank Davis versus Frank Martin, doesn't see 200,000 at all. And but I want to set a side note just to show you Dan Raphael how much of a weasel he really is. He's still out on podcasts saying, well, if you look at Tank's numbers, they average around 250, 275. That is an absolute bald-faced lie.
Fatality.
Espinoza straight up said when at Garcia versus Hector Garcia, when he said that it's not at 200,000, but it's his second biggest seller right behind Rolly, which was over 200. So out of his 5 pay-per-views, not counting the crazy dude, Garcia, not counting him, only one sold over 200,000. So the fact that Raphael's still making the rounds, saying that, you know, adding 100,000 to each one of his pay-per-views, to me is just, you're a shill, dude. You're still shillish.
Well, you know, if you want to quote Dan Raphael, that's your, that's your problem, basically. The guy's unreliable, but I guess people think he's he's legitimate because he used to work with ESPN and yeah. Guys, let's take a phone call.
Well, I mean, listen,
phone call 469. 469, you're on the air.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What was the third fight on Canelo's PBC deal?
Jimmy?
What was the third fight on Canelo's PBC deal?
Originally, it was Errol Spence. That deal was signed before he lost to Crawford. But that's what happened. Errol Spence. The names that were brought up to him, Steve Kim was told.
What is your source for that?
What's that?
What is your source for that?
Steve Kim. And it was not just mentioned by Steve Kim, other people. Yeah, and Steve, this is what Steve Kim said. I don't know if you heard me. He said, I spoke to somebody intimately involved in the negotiations. And that's what told him. Plus, I heard that now. Rick Lynch said that, and somebody else said it too.
Where can I find it? Where can I find it? Where is it at?
Coach Malachi. There was one. That's where he said. I remember he talked about the 3 fights, and they talked about Spence too. But that screwed everything up because they thought Spence was going to beat Crawford.
When was it? Like, what is it? Is it a YouTube channel? What is it?
Coach Malachi. True Media.
Is it a YouTube channel? Like,
yeah, it's a YouTube channel.
Yes.
So Canelo was going to face Errol Spence.
That was the 3 fight offered to him. Al Haymon sat down and said, we're going to make a 3-fight deal. Mel, Maul, and Errol. But because the 2 PBC fighters got their fucking heads knocked in, Spence blew up that when he lost. And Mel did so horrible, they knew the second Charlo fight would do such terrible numbers, they tried to re-rig.
What was the YouTube channel Steve Kim made this official at? What was the YouTube channel?
He didn't make, it wasn't official. He just said,
tweet? What was it?
True Media Boxing, Coach Malachi.
Video. He's on video.
True Media.
You don't know who Coach Malachi is?
Coach Malachi. That's a YouTube channel?
My goodness gracious, this going to circle.
Yeah, bro. Are you not listening?
Is it a YouTube channel?
Yes, it's a YouTube channel. Check it out.
Let them call me.
Yeah, it's a YouTube channel, bro. Coach Malachi.
And it was on video. Steve Kim said Canelo was going to face Errol Spence.
The names.
Before he lost to the deal was.
And what weight does Errol Spence fight at?
147.
Well, what difference would that make?
What weight does Canelo fight at?
168.
What weight does Canelo fight at?
Are you new to boxing? Are you new to boxing?
I'm asking a simple question.
Your rhetorical question. Just get to the point.
What weight does Canelo fight at?
You know which weight he fights at. You know it. You know that.
Light heavyweight.
What does Canelo look like?
What's the weight? To let the people know.
What's the color of Canelo's pubes?
What is Errol Spence enough for Anglo, or is he a Mexican?
168.
Is the Mexican guy? Is he the Mexican guy?
Canelo,
Listen, go talk to Al
Canelo
Haymon.
was going to fight.
Ask Al Haymon what he wanted to make that fight.
Canelo.
Ask Al Haymon what he
Canelo was
wanted to
going to
make
fight a
that fight.
147-pounder.
Yeah,
Yes,
who's
Al Haymon
taller?
wanted that.
Canelo's going to fight a 147-pounder.
See, Al Haymon is a genius. The genius of Al Haymon wanted that fight.
That's the fight, Carla. That's the fight that was.
Al Haymon.
That's the fights the PBC wanted to make.
The
Yeah.
genius,
That's important
the
to
genius
know.
of Al Haymon, because the only source you guys gave is Steve Kemp, right? So the genius
No,
of
I
Al
didn't.
Heyman.
No. Caller. I said, I'm going to repeat it again. This is what Steve Kim said, and who's
said
not a
among other
liar.
people.
Steve Kim doesn't lie. This is what he said.
said among-
I was told, can I
said
finish?
among
I was
other people.
told
So you
by
only gave me one person.
somebody oh
Give
my
me one
God in
person.
heaven.
Go ahead,
Can I
go ahead.
finish?
Kim is one person.
Okay,
Jesus
Jimmy,
Christ.
he's saying it's only
Yeah,
one.
future
Okay,
Hall of-
hold on.
future Hall of
Jimmy. He's saying it's Steve
Yep.
Kim is only one person.
You
What
gotta
do you have to
step
say
in
about
for him.
that, Jimmy?
Save him. You got to step in
Okay.
for him. Save him.
All right. How
Say-
about Dan Raphael, too? Dan Raphael, Steve Kim, Rick Glacier. They all said it. They all said the same thing.
Dan Raphael said Errol Spence was a 147 fighter.
Because you got to understand, Carla, Al Haymon only cares about one thing. It was only about the ticket sales. And if you looked at his roster, who do I have that can move big numbers? Say if Spence
changing
would
the
have
subject.
beaten
You
Crawford.
changing the subject. You changing the subject. You changing the subject.
I'm trying to explain
Y'all
Al
are-
Heyman's
you changing the
mindset,
subject.
dude.
Y'all- you changing the subject.
Say, Bucho, you know
Y'all
before
are
you used to go
okay.
troll and do all
Y'all
my
are
records
okay.
too, right? The same way.
Y'all are okay with Canelo. Y'all are okay with
No one-
Canelo fighting the 147 pounder?
We are?
No,
How do you get that?
We didn't say that.
How do you get
Yeah.
that?
We never
Wait,
said
hey,
that.
Recognize, Bucho, listen.
Are y'all okay?
We report
No, we're
something.
not
It
okay.
goes from
I'm
we're
not-
reporting
are
it
y'all okay?
to we're okay with it. It's
we're not
classic.
okay. We're not
Are
okay with it.
y'all-
Caller.
Are y'all okay with Canelo fighting the 147 pounder?
No.
No.
Are you okay with Errol Spence
No.
fighting Mikey
Oh.
Garcia? Were you okay
So,
with Errol Spence
so,
fighting Mikey Garcia?
so.
Okay, there's your answer. That's your answer. Same.
The deal that y'all are saying, had Errol Spence as the third one, because you only gave me one source, right? Wouldn't that be a bad deal?
No, we gave you three sources, caller.
No?
Dan Raphael, Steve Kim, and Rick Glacier.
That's cool, whatever, right? So, with Errol Spence being the last fight, wouldn't that be a bad deal?
Well, first it's just
I don't know,
one, now it's three. Okay, whatever. That's
a bad deal for who? A bad deal for who? A bad deal for Canelo?
Wouldn't that be a bad deal?
For who?
A bad deal for boxing, for boxing and the PBC and Canelo.
Well, not for the PBC. I don't know. I think maybe they thought that he would sell. I have no idea. But for the fans, I
So
agree
they
with
thought-
you.
so
For
they
the
thought-
fans,
so
for
they
the
thought
fans,
Errol
I agree
Spence-
with you because I don't want to see Canelo against a
Hey,
147.
hold up. Let me speak.
Go
So
ahead.
they thought a 147 pounder who got threw out of a Lamborghini was going to face a 168 Canelo, and that was a good deal.
It was a Ferrari, and he walked away completely unscathed. Nothing happened to him in
that
that
was a good
accident.
deal?
Literally
That was a good deal?
nothing.
You're changing the subject. You're changing
No,
the
listen,
subject.
caller,
No,
caller.
you brought up the car accident, and it was a Ferrari.
A good deal for who?
Is it a good deal? Is it a good deal?
Caller.
A 147 pounder who got threw out of a car facing a
Yes,
168
yes,
Canelo.
caller,
That's a good deal?
I agree. That fight doesn't make
man.
sense. Caller, that fight does not make sense in my opinion. Apparently, for whoever
So it's a bad
proposed
deal.
that shit, it's a bad deal for boxing fans. Well, some boxing fans might have bought it. I wouldn't have bought that shit. Some
It's
fans
under the-
actually, some
So it's a
fans
bad
actually
deal,
think, some fans actually think Crawford can beat Canelo.
Assuming that deal is even real, because Errol Spence was not the third fight. You never said Errol Spence until
do you
right
know?
now.
You don't know
But
that shit.
assuming
How do you
that
know
was the
that
deal,
shit?
that's
Nobody
a bad
knows.
deal, right?
How do
don't
you know? How do you know? Give us your sources.
How do I know
How do
what?
you know?
That he
How do
wasn't
you
the
know
last
that
fight.
Errol
How do you-
Spence
how do I
wasn't
know
the
what?
third fight? And give me your sources.
I
Give me
never
your
made a
sources
claim.
that tell me.
I never
All right, you
Give me
never
your
made a
it
claim.
wasn't.
Okay, you never made a claim. But is it possible that Spence was the last
I
fight?
asked
Is
the
it possible? Is
question.
it possible? Is it possible? Of course, it is
Give me
possible.
the source that Canelo that Spence
Possibilities
won.
are ruined out. He said
No,
it was a fact.
listen.
Your
And
guy
I'll
said it
give you.
was a
I'll give
fact.
you. No, hold on. Let me talk.
No,
Listen.
your
You're
guy
saying
said
it
it was
doesn't
a
make
fact.
sense. You're saying it doesn't
You
make
can't
sense.
change
Well,
it
guess
to-
what?
Look at you trying to change it to possibilities,
Caller. Let me talk.
Look
Let me
at you
talk.
being
Let me fucking
wordy,
talk. Let me talk.
squealing.
Let me talk. Jesus Christ.
Go.
This
Let me
is what
fucking
people
talk.
do when they don't want to hear the
Let
truth.
me fucking talk, guys. Nobody speaks. This guy is what the caller is trying to say is that
Fine.
the
Save
Spence.
him. Save
Can
him.
I? Let me
Save your
talk.
boy.
Let me. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute this guy.
Save
All right. Listen,
mute him.
caller.
Just mute him
You're on
at
mute.
this point.
Caller, you're on mute. You're trying to say that the Canelo Spence fight wasn't in the contract because it doesn't make sense. Nobody wants it, blah blah blah. But listen, nobody wanted Canelo versus Jermell Charlo, 154 pounder. Yet it still happened. Yet it still happened. All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I never
caller.
said that.
Now you can continue.
I
Yes,
never
you can.
said that.
You never said what?
I never said that.
You never said what?
I asked you guys what was the third fight. He stated that it was Errol Spence. I never made a claim either way.
Okay. So
No, yes, you did. You claimed it wasn't.
Yeah, bro. You claimed it wasn't.
Damn.
I asked for your proof, and you gave me Steve Kim.
Steve Kim, Dan Raphael, and Rick
But I
Wilson, but
went
you
with
said
it.
whatever.
I still.
But you
I
keep
still
saying,
went
now
with
you're
it.
going back to
I went
one.
with it.
Go
I
watch
fed
Sesame
Sesame
Street.
Street.
Who's a troll?
I still went
Go
with it.
watch Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3.
So
Three
would it?
sources.
So wouldn't that be a bad deal to
I
fight
don't think
Errol
this,
Spence
I
as
think
the
this
third
guy's
fight?
from the Butcher. I think this guy's from the Mayweather school, man. I don't think he can read. I think he might be illiterate.
I mean,
the way he sounds.
three
Yeah.
seconds.
When it brings up
Wouldn't
the
Errol
car
Spence be a
accident,
bad fight as
like
the
that
third
has
fight?
anything to do with anything.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Caller, yes.
Well,
it would be
Jimmy,
a-
Jimmy,
no,
Jimmy,
hold on,
Jimmy,
caller,
Jimmy,
yes,
Jimmy,
it would be a-
Y'all can answer the
let me say this, Jimmy. Hey, Butcher, let me say this. Jimmy brought up this dude brought up the car accident as a bad thing for Spence, and then when Jimmy
Would the Errol
overrode
Spence
that,
fight be a bad
they were
fight for the
clean.
third fight?
Hey, caller, you're being
answering.
impolite, man. I'm talking to you. Caller, you're being impolite. Now, when Jimmy brought that up and said, "Look, he walked away from the car
Being
from the car
impolite, y'all
accident,"
call black people Crips. Fuck polite.
the guy goes.
I'm just asking,
So he brought
is
up
the third
accident,
fight a good
and then
fight?
Jimmy
Is that a good deal?
rebuked it. The
Answer
guy
All right,
the
was
all right.
question.
now
Yes or
he
no?
BDA, let me talk. BDA, let me talk. BDA, let me
Now
talk.
he doesn't.
BDA, let me talk. Jesus.
I don't give a fuck about politeness with you motherfuckers. Fuck
All right.
y'all.
Yeah, all right.
Is Errol
Okay,
Spence a
there you
good
go.
fight for the
Listen,
third
hold on,
fight?
Jimmy.
Yeah, there
let
you
me
go.
talk. Jimmy, let me talk.
Answer
let
the
me talk.
question, motherfucker.
Yeah, okay. I'll answer your question. Einstein. Go ahead, Einstein. Go ahead.
He's so upset right now.
Hold on. Let me talk. Let me talk with the caller. Caller, go ahead.
Is that a good deal for the PBC or Canelo to have Errol Spence at the third fight?
I don't think it was a good deal, to be honest. And I don't think it was a good deal. And I'll tell you what. The
So
PBC
why would
has,
you say? So wouldn't it be good business to get out of a bad deal?
Yes, Canelo got out of a bad deal, yeah, because they lied to him. See, the PBC, they don't know how to do business, caller. I don't think if you've noticed this. That BBC.
I thought PBC.
Caller, let me talk. Be polite. Be polite. Okay, caller, I'm gonna have to mute you
They
because
did
you're
change the deal.
Caller,
Not thought, they did. That's unequivocal.
Hold on, the PBC.
Hey, one at a time, please. One at a time.
When I speak,
Sorry.
please let me speak. All right, guys.
Sorry, Bucho.
Caller, the PBC is known for mismanagement.
Wouldn't that make sense?
The caller,
Wouldn't that make sense?
You were muted. Let me talk.
Wouldn't that make sense to get out of a bad deal?
Who got out of? Yes, the Canelo got out of a bad deal. Yeah, there was no money in it.
Did the PBC not try to change the deal?
Yes.
So they didn't get out of the deal?
You tell me.
You didn't get out.
You tell me. You tell me, caller. Go ahead, caller. He hung up. What a fucking loser, man. He doesn't know. Like,
He didn't get out of the deal. This dude didn't get out of the deal.
Can I just say something? Guys, when Butcher saw, like everyone's talking at the same time,
yeah, we were talking.
and it's just especially when we got a caller who's being disingenuous and circuitous, you really have to pin him down. And that's what Butcher was doing. But everyone's jumping in at the same time.
You know what? When he was talking, that guy was talking, he kind of like will block out Bucho, and then I hear Bucho say something in the end. And then I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, Bucho was talking.
Yeah, I know what happens, Mr. BD. Maybe when he starts talking, it kind of drowns out Bucho. So I didn't hear Bucho.
Yeah,
like I just said,
Bucho.
and it's like his voice comes up after. So I wasn't even hearing him, and I thought he was responding to what I was asking. So yeah, I apologize, but no, he was. Well, I did hear him say one thing. He said, "You guys call black
Jimmy,
people
the whole
Crips."
point he was trying to make was that it's a bad deal. Now it's a bad deal for who? For the fans. Well, yes, but it was also a bad deal for the fans to have Canelo versus Jermel. Right, and it was a bad deal for fans to have Tank versus Garcia, the other Garcia, not Ryan Garcia, the other on pay-per-view, right? So yeah, the PBC is known for making big mistakes like this.
Bad deals, yeah, they're known for making bad deals
there all the time. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Bucho, he was also sticking up.
If Canelo, I wouldn't be surprised if Canelo was really offered the Spence fight as a third fight. I wouldn't be surprised. But the caller is like, I don't even know what he was trying to be honest.
Well, what he was trying to do at the end of the day, he was sticking up for the PBC. He kept saying, well, isn't that good business trying to get out of a bad deal? Yes, if you weren't the one who proposed the bad deal. Like, you know what I mean? They're the ones who fucking made up the contract. And obviously, prior to the loss to Crawford, Spence was by far their biggest fighter, anywhere near and around that weight class. So obviously, if he would have beat Crawford, everybody knows, everybody would have been clamoring because they were asking for that Canelo fight prior. His fans were thinking, oh, he could go up to 168, beat Canelo. They were already saying that. So if he had beat Crawford, of course that fight would have sold. Of course it would have. But when when it blew up and he lost, you know what I mean? But again, I just want to say one thing. When he ever said, you guys call black people Crips, so he's attributing callers who call into this show who might say disparaging things.
Wait.
But that's what he said.
There's
None
only
of us
one
here
guy.
I don't say that.
No, I know. A caller called in.
Fellas. There's only one guy that I remember saying that, and that's fucking Dora, who's clearly unhinged. And every time he says, hey, come on, Dora, stop saying that. So, yeah, I don't understand. And by the way, yeah, these people, they always come back with the CCD, Wad Rapid, which they're obsessed with Wad Rapid, man. It seems like they're really butthurt over Wad Rapid, allowing people to say whatever they want on their channel. So,
yeah, I know.
And by the way, the other thing is, long story short, Jimmy really caught the guy when the guy brings up the car accident. He's like, well, Errol Spence, who was in a car accident, he's trying to dispatch Errol Spence. And then Jimmy says, he walked away clean from the car accident. The other guy goes, stop changing the subject. You brought up the car accident. Like, this guy was he was trolling.
Anyways, we got to move on. Caller, call back again if you want. Let's take another, super chat before we take a phone call. Rider of the Storm, thank you for your super chat. He says, the color was the color was Booty Loose Prison Bunky. All right. That's right.
Jesus.
Come on.
All right, let's take a phone call here. Let's take a phone call. 832, you're on the air.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yep. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Well, man, the one that seemed to have a crash in a Lamborghini was that last retarded caller, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Is people that argue like that, they're annoying. Like, he just...
Hey, listen, caller. I don't know, you're driving or something, but there's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I'm walking my dog, and the wind is striking the headset.
Okay.
Let me try to find a place. But yeah, what I was trying to say is that the one that seemed to be in a Lamborghini crash was the last caller. Like the argument that he was using to argue, to go through the argument, basically looked like he had a scripted. He had a script to follow, and you guys didn't allow him to follow the script. So he kept like repeating shit like a robot. So it's annoying, and that's what happens when you have this Haymon mid-rider on the calls. So I just wanted to express that when it comes to the call. I hope you guys are able to hear me better now.
Yes.
So I heard one of you guys have good sources and have good memories. I mean, I follow boxing, but I have the handicap that I have a very bad memory, and that I don't remember who said what. But I remember also a source saying that the agreement with Canelo and PBC was the first fight with Jermel, then second fight, I don't remember who was settled as the second opponent, and the third fight was an opponent that they would agree. Canelo and the PBC, they like it was open to a third option. Did you guys ever hear about that?
Yes. I did hear that. I heard that there was, because I think what happened was after Spence lost, that's when it changed to, it'll have to be a fighter we agree upon, because clearly it couldn't be Spence after the loss.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. From my casual standpoint, it's my understanding that nobody's clearly ducking anyone in the Canelo-David Benavidez case, but Benavidez hasn't pushed enough, having the opportunities he had for the fight. Now he's going to 175, and now he's talking about possibly going up to cruiserweight. So that looks fishy. I mean, I don't see Canelo going crazy about fighting him either. But I don't know how people get supporting sides that quickly. I don't see it clear that any side is ducking anyone. It looks like another case of over-marination, or I don't know, but it doesn't look clear. Like I couldn't point fingers at Canelo saying that he's ducking Benavidez, and also, I don't know. It just looked weird that you have the big opportunity of the biggest fight, and then you say that you wouldn't cross the street to the zone, then you're going to 175, then you're talking about cruiserweight. It looks like cloud chasing from my casual.
Hold on, doesn't that sound like somebody's putting that in his head to say, like, that's not authentic? If you left it up to him, why would he turn down the biggest fight of his career according to what network they might fight on? If it was up to him, I think he'll be like, yeah, fuck that. I'll go over there and fight him on the zone, as long as as long as I'm going to get paid the biggest paycheck that I've ever gotten, which he would. These PBC fighters do not call the shots. They can't speak for themselves.
Well, they're also guided by the Haymon superpower is ruining boxer's career. Look what happened with Wilder, and we can look what happened with several examples. Right now, the most iconic I have is the Wilder one, but it looks like it could be another situation again with Wilder with Benavidez.
All right, caller, we got to move on because there's the background noise is like kind of annoying people in the chat. But anyways, call back later if you want, all right? Take care.
All right, bro. All right.
Yeah. It's like Acapulco wireless. Anyways, interesting call. Guys, by the way, yes, we're also taking, if you even care, Francis Ngannou, Anthony Joshua predictions, so... Yeah, you can call in for that as well.
Well, can I say that about that?
Yes.
Yeah, man, I might do a show tomorrow, just a call-in show, because I also want to show a couple of clips. Although I'm going to keep them short, obviously, otherwise we get fucking copyright. But I'm interested in that Joshua versus Ngannou fight. I'm really intrigued, man. And for only $40, you get Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. That should be an intriguing fight. I don't know if it's going to be entertaining. Then you got Zhang versus Joseph Parker. And then they just announced today that the Madrimov versus that other Russian dude whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce is back on. And so Madrimov is that guy from Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan, I forget, he's undefeated. And the other Russian dude, he's undefeated too. He's got a couple of good wins against Teixeira and Liam Smith. So hey man, if you guys talk about that, I'll be back. If not, I'll just do a show tomorrow about that.
All right. We have a super chat here. Super chat. Josh Brian says, all this Canelo and Benavidez stuff would have been settled if Benavidez put down the Taco Bell and Burger King. All right. Listen, people who blame Canelo for this, I don't know what to tell you. Hey, Jimmy, I have a question for you. I don't know if you're there.
Yes.
All right. We're talking about Canelo Benavidez, the negotiations, and how Benavidez's name was not in that 3-fight deal. And some people say blame Canelo for this. They think that if Canelo wanted the Benavidez fight, it would have been added to the list. What do you say?
Well, I don't know if that's the case, because Al Haymon was clearly in charge of what was going on, because they were nigged on the thing. Meaning, like, they're the ones who brought the names to him. They agreed on the names originally. And again, I know it sounds farcical now, Spence, but I'll reiterate, at the time when Canelo met with him, his fans are already clamoring, oh, Spence could beat anybody from 147 to 175. I mean, they were saying it regularly on Twitter. And if he would have beaten Crawford, of course people would have wanted to see that fight. And economically, that would have been the biggest fight. I wouldn't have liked it. I would have thought I don't want to see anybody go up, and I don't want to see Crawford go up there either to 168. That's too many weight classes. There's weight classes for a reason. But it doesn't matter, because to Al Haymon, remember, all he's looking at is the numbers. That's all he cares about. right? And so, but when that fight obviously blew up, they try to change the numbers. I mean, the fighter, but they didn't just try to change the fighter. They also try to change the numbers. So, but here's the very key thing. Even now in the latest round of negotiations with the PBC, supposedly they're not even offering fucking Benavidez for this. Again, they're still not offering Benavidez. He's going to fight Roderick at 175. So he's just not. It doesn't seem like Benavidez. I mean, if he really was like, that was his mission, he has Canelo's picture taped to his wall, and he wakes up and he looks at his face, and all he wants to do is just beat this fucking dude because I know I could beat him. Why wasn't he even trying to get the WBC to mandate him? Why wouldn't he say, fucking right, I'll go to the zone, I'll go to Japan, I'll go to the fucking moon to fight him, whatever it has to be, let's do it. Fuck no, was his response.
Maybe
so I don't want to hear that it's, Canelo, like you said, Bucho.
Maybe.
And again, he fought Triple G. Come on, he's not ducking Benavidez. Fuck
maybe
Benavidez.
Maybe Benavidez is someone that look desperate, appear desperate in order to, he wants to pretend like he has some leverage. But then he said, no, but that doesn't make sense. But then, because then he said, like, I was offered $5 million flat fee.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, here's another thing too, Bucho, about his trainer. His trainer, this is Eddie Hearn saying now. So this is another source. Eddie Hearn straight up says he talked just recently to Sam Lukowitz. And Sam Lukowitz said, oh, yeah, because Lukowitz, he talked about how Lukowitz is, we'll fight him for free. We just want the fight. When Eddie Hearn called him, this is when he already had left the PBC deal and he was talking with Eddie. Eddie said, well, maybe we can make it happen in the zone. Right off the rip, Sam Lukowitz said, nah, though, we'd have to have it for the Amazon in the United States. It has to be on Amazon. And like Eddie Hearn says, but no offense, who the fuck are you?
Exactly.
What leverage do you have? Dude, no offense, but you're a nobody. Your guy doesn't even hit 100,000 in pay-per-view sales. He's never made more than $1 million as a payday. 1.5? No, I'm sorry. I believe he got $2 million for the plant fight, guaranteed. But that's it. Put it this way: Canelo's opponents got 5 times more than fucking Benavidez's highest purse. He has no leverage, none. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know why he thinks he's this big shot. Maybe on the internet, because people are talking about this fight. But he's a challenger. He's the one that should be chasing Canelo. Canelo doesn't have to be chasing this guy. And that doesn't mean that, there's... I mean, listen, why can, like you said, Jimmy, why can't Benavidez just go to the zone for one fight? And then if he beats Canelo, then maybe they can have the rematch on the PBC, right?
Well, that's why it's important to remember how they worded that question to him, whoever asked him. Would you get a buyout? That was so strategic. Why would he have to, like, even Eddie Hearn's like, we don't do buyouts. Nobody needs to buy out his contract. We don't expect him to sign a 3-fight deal. They only do that at the PBC because they want to control every aspect of it. So we just need him. You want to come fight? Fight. But Lukowitz said, nope, it has to be on Amazon. And Benavidez himself said, fuck no. So don't sit there and anybody tell me about how he wants to fight Canelo so bad and Canelo's ducking him when the evidence is clear.
Yep. It seems like it's clear. But how do you know, Jimmy? What are your sources? And you give 3 sources. And
come out of David Benavidez's mouth.
Yeah. All right. We have Uncle Pete here. He wants to say something. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey.
Scalebender. He's muted. You're muted, man.
Hey, Scalebender.
Is he muted?
Boys. Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead.
How's everybody doing today? Jimbo, Bucho?
What's up, Petey?
What's up? Who's got Ryan Garcia on their avatar or whatever?
That's recognized.
Oh, yeah.
He started out with Haymon. He started out with Al Haymon with an afro.
His boy.
All right, what do you have for us, Uncle Pete?
Well, what are you guys still talking about? The Canelo gimmick?
Yep.
He's fucking tucking Benavidez. Stop it. been ducking him.
Well, Pete, what do you think about this thing? Apparently, Spence Jr. was supposed to be the last fight in that 3-fight deal.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard originally. And I'm just saying, what I was trying to ask the last show, I know it was getting heated because of the callers and stuff, but do you really think that Haymon had any leverage at all in that when they originally sat down and signed the contract? I mean, he's just supplying Canelo with 3 opponents.
Well, he's the one offering the money.
I know that, but he just wants Canelo to fight 3 times on PBC. The opponents are how could it be Haymon pressing Spence in there? It had to be Canelo. I mean, Canelo's got to have, let's just say Canelo's got to have some say in it. We can start there, right?
Well, he could say no.
Yeah, he could say absolutely not, right, to Benavidez.
Yeah, exactly.
He could say, look, I don't even want to talk about Benavidez for any money. But
it's been reported that it was never even offered. Like Steve said, that he was told that name was never even offered. It was never part of the 3-fight deal.
It makes
sense. It was never part of the 3-fight deal.
Yeah, Mo and Spence. And it was before Spence lost to Crawford.
To me,
I want to put that out there, too. That's important.
I know it was part of the 3-fight deal, Jimmy. Oh, go ahead, Pucho.
No, just saying it makes sense because Al Haymon wants to use his fighters, right? If he doesn't fight Jermell and Jamal, then they're on the sideline and they're not getting paid. He thinks like, well, I'm going to use all the fighters that I have. And then at the end, he thought that maybe he could get a 4th fight with Canelo, I believe, with Benavidez.
Come on, man.
Yeah, why not? You're marinating the fight. You're marinating the fight. Canelo's getting older. They probably think, well, maybe Benavidez has a better chance of beating Canelo later on. It makes fucking sense.
Do you think PBC has time to marinate anything? It doesn't seem like, especially when they sign that contract. Look, especially at the time of signing that contract, as we all just got done saying, right? Or not me, but as y'all just reiterated, they had no time to waste. They had to put Spence Crawford on. They had to put this on. They had to put that on. I mean, they had to do Tank and Ryan. They had no marination time. It was Canelo that didn't want. Look, if you go back, if you play the clip, I don't see what everybody's letting their disdain for PBC. Which, number one, I'm totally with you on that. We've talked about that ad nauseum, right? PBC, basically just a money laundering scheme. It really is what it is. Number one. Number two, it's dead already. I mean, it's dead already. They could have one fight a year for the next 10 years, and technically PBC wouldn't be dead. Like technically they could do one Tank fight, one pay-per-view for the next 5 years, and technically PBC would last for 5 more years. But let's cut this shit. They're done.
I don't think
right? One fight, one card this year at the end of the first quarter. They're scraping around. So it is what it is. I don't even care about the PBC. My thing is, don't let your disdain for the PBC artificially prop up Canelo's sense of shame, which he doesn't have. Totally overestimating his sense of shame. He does not want to fight Benavidez.
But Petey,
go ahead.
If it was never part of the conversation, bro, why would he accept a fight that was never offered? You want him to ask for Benavidez?
Why would it never be part of the conversation? You fucking believe that?
Well,
it wasn't a part of the deal, bro. So no,
I know it wasn't part of the deal, but you said part of the conversation. That's different.
There's many.
It was never offered. That's what they're saying. So yeah, there you go.
The PBC is irrational. They don't like. Let's just look at everything they've done. It doesn't make any sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if this didn't make any sense either.
I think everything they've done, to me, makes sense.
Skill vendor, don't be a deep vendor to the PBC, bro.
The PBC,
that's not being complimentary to them. But the whole overpaying these guys, we talked about it last show. To me, I understand it. I don't agree with it. I think it's basically fucking an organized scheme. But the fighters aren't going to complain. But that's over with already. Now they're having to actually, a while ago. Yeah, now they're having to actually look at the income and the expenditures on these fights. They're having to actually say, okay, 35 million is too much. We're going to lose money at 35 million. We don't have Waddell and Reed money. If I had Waddell and Reed money, I'd pay you 100 million and take 15 for myself. You get that? Like, I can't do that anymore. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if you caught that right when, of course he would do this too, but right after the story broke that he had walked away from the PBC deal, come to find out for 2 weeks prior to that, he was already talking to Eddie Hearn, like Eddie Hearn said. And Eddie Hearn said, every time I talked to Canelo, he would burst out in laughter. And the thought of people actually, he would say to him, people actually think I'm afraid of David Benavidez. Like he would laugh about it. Then Eddie Hearn, again, before he said, nothing signed, but the feelers out there because he wanted to fight Benavidez, he called Sam Lukowitz. Sam Lukowitz has never denied this. He hasn't gone on any social media, and he has been interviewed prior. I mean, since then, he hasn't denied it. Eddie Hearn asked him, hey, so what's up? Let's doesn't matter just because he's leaving the PBC doesn't mean we can't make this fight. Let's make this fight happen. Your boy wants him. All right. And what did because the day before, Lukowitz was saying he'd fight him for free. So Eddie Hearn said, no problem. You're going to have to come over to the zone and we'll make it. And Lukowitz said, nah, there has to be the American.
The American has to be on PBC.
So think about it. So they're the ones backing away from it. They're in no position to be saying where it can go.
If Canelo wanted to fight Benavidez, why the fuck would he be talking to Eddie Hearn outside of the deal that he already had with PBC?
Because he already walked away.
Because they couldn't pay him, bro. That's why.
Okay, number one. Go ahead, Silver. What did you say?
I said they couldn't pay him. They couldn't pay him the money that they promised. So they couldn't hold up there. So he went to go explore their options.
I agree.
Yeah, now
that's true.
They're coming together and splitting the bill.
That's true. But like I said last week, I'm not look, don't get the two mixed up, but is it they couldn't afford $35 million or they couldn't get financed for $35 million? Hold on. Yep. Or did they say, look, dude, we could give you the $35 million, but we're going to take it up the fucking ass if we do that. All right. Let me show you the numbers from the last fight against Jermell. That fight looked like shit. That fight sold like shit. Okay. That's number one. Number two, Jermall Charlo is in no shape to fight. Okay, he's a fucking drunk right now. He's fucking hammered on some kind of jet ski right now, making no sense, babbling into a fucking Instagram. He missed weight for his last fight. Okay, the guy's a fucking mess. It's going to be a train wreck disaster even getting him into the ring. Okay. Furthermore, and then Canelo said, no, we agreed on Jermall Charlo. We want Jermall Charlo for $35 million. And they said, look, we don't want to give you Jermall Charlo, but if we do, it can't be for $35 million because we're going to take it up the ass. He said, Then they said, look, we'll even pay you the $35 million for Jermall Charlo. We will somehow get his ass into the ring. The fight will look like shit. Won't sell. We'll lose. But we want Benavidez for the third fight. Not for $35 million. Pay a raise. Canelo's going to want more than $35 million to fight Benavidez. If he wants $35 million to fight Jermall Charlo, he sure is not going to want more than that to fight Benavidez.
They never told Jermall. They never told Jermall, listen, you're going to be, you're on the list. Get ready. I don't understand. Why is he being a drunk?
Well, you tell me, because I'm just going on the facts that we've established so far. We don't agree on the last part, but we've established Jermall and Jermell, right? We've established that.
But Jermall should have known. And by the way, they asked Jermall in that Instagram video. He's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, nobody has contacted me. I'm like, well
that's apparent.
Shouldn't they have contacted him if he's on the list? Like, hey, man, you might start fighting. You might fight Canelo in May. Get ready. He's like, nobody has told me anything. I don't know. It's like, so what the fuck's going on at the PBC?
Well, nobody's heard from Al Haymon since the 14th of December, according to Rick Glacier's sources. But what happened, Pete, with the money? What happened with the money was they ended up again. What happened is they didn't have it. It was supposed to be in escrow by a certain date, I believe, the first week. So when it wasn't there, they asked Canelo for an extension. Well, they were waiting for the extension. Yeah, they gave him a 10-day grace. That's when he supposedly reached out to Eddie Hearn because it looked like it wouldn't happen. Then they called him, supposedly said, we have the money, but we want to change the terms. And that's all that Canelo listened to from there on in. Once they said they want to change the terms, he was legally, as you know as well as anybody, you own your own business, within his right to walk away, and he did. But now they're renegotiating, and supposedly Benavidez's name still isn't being offered to him.
And why the fuck do you think that is, Jimmy?
I don't know. He's set to fight for Vodjik. Maybe it's because of the weight. I don't know.
Come on, man. This guy, listen, he's doing the same thing. He's just Floyd Mayweather 2.0, Canelo. This guy fancies himself like this stiff-ass negotiator. First of all, he left PBC. I mean, didn't leave, but whatever, broke off and tried to talk to DAZN and Eddie Hearn. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn's his last resort. So what do you think Eddie Hearn's going to tell him? $35 million? What, $40 million? He's going to tell him $25 million.
I can't confirm this, but supposedly Top Rank was actually talking to him too.
Not for 35 million.
Oh yeah, no way would he get 35 million a fight.
So that's really what it is. He's being told by PBC and then DAZN, and evidently from what you just told me, which I didn't know, by Top Rank too, I'm assuming he's being told by all three major promoters, dude, wise up, because no one's going to pay you, number one, $35 million to fight a nobody, all right, a drunk, and number two, we want the David Benavidez fight. He did the same thing with Golden Boy when they tried to press the third Triple G fight on him. He bucked and he fucking sued him to get out of his contract with him.
Yeah, that was to get out of Golden Boy, but because they were tied to the zone, they had to.
If you read the suit, though, the whole factual basis for that lawsuit was, look, Golden Boy's telling me that I can't fight my twice a year unless one of them is Triple G. They had that deal cut with DAZN. I never cut that deal with Golden Boy. That's what Canelo's saying. I never cut that deal with Golden Boy. Golden Boy cut that deal with DAZN, and they're trying to press it on me because they got the right to refuse my fights. They had a 10-fight deal, $30 million a fight, and Canelo kept trying to give them Rocky Fieldings and fucking Yildirim's, and they go,
well,
no.
Yildirim was a mandatory. He had to. No, he isn't. No, he wasn't. Never.
Okay, fine. The WBC.
Don't say that, bro.
The WBC will let Spence Crawford be the mandatory for Spence for fucking 50 years before they let him go. They're not doing anything. I'm not relying on these people WBC to do anything. All right.
But I was going to say, bro, the DAZN was about to pay him, offered him 35. They were going to pay him 35 million to fight Berlanga. To me, that's as bad as Jamal Charlo.
The 35 million part is the part that I probably would disagree with.
Well, they were going to, like they said, Eddie Hearn says, we have the money and we don't have to worry about it getting escrow. We'll cut a check. You know, we got the money.
I know,
but no problem with us.
But have the money and blow the fucking money and light it on fire is two separate things. That's the question. Is that these guys are, at the end of the day, like the Saudis, they got trillions, but you know what? They're not just or they would have sent tankers fucking 2 Ferraris. And we're not just going to fucking take it up the ass. We have a lot of money. Yes, we have the money, right? But I'm not just going to take it straight up the ass just to show you I have the money.
Yeah, and the Saudis would have nothing to do with the Canelo fight, only because that would have been held in the United States or in Mexico. Canelo's not going to go fight over in Saudi Arabia. That would have been DAZN money.
No, I'm just using that for an example. Like, of course,
I know.
For example, because everybody's talking about Saudi money lately. Yeah, they have the money. Right? They have a sovereign wealth fund with about $1 trillion in it, but they do have a budget for these fights over there. So people are like, oh, they can just spend 100. Well, then why don't they just fucking spend? Why don't they just pay Usyk and Fury $100 million each? Why not?
Well, I think they were desperate to get Canelo back. To be honest with you, and I think if Canelo said, yeah, they were going to give me 35 for Maul. I'm sure Hearn would have said, oh, yeah, we'll give you 35 for Berlanga, only because they really wanted Canelo back, clearly, obviously.
I bet you they're going to give him. I bet you it's going to go, dude, look, we can. Here's the thing about DAZN, right? And here's the thing about Eddie Hearn, who basically represents DAZN in America, right? They did it smart with Canelo. It did spark a lawsuit, but they did get their arms around Canelo in that Golden Boy contract. Yes, it's $30 million a fight. Yes, it's 10 fights, but we get the right to refuse these fights. Like, we don't have to take whatever you give us. And when they wanted to bring somebody subpar in there, they're going to offer them less money. And when DAZN is when Matchroom and DAZN are the last place that they know that you're at your last resort, they're not going to fucking offer you what PBC was offering you. He's just going to get the most money for the least amount of risk.
Well, they paid him $30 million to fight Yildirim.
They paid him $35 million to fight Jermell Charlo, but they're trying to make every one of these multi-fight deals starts out with an easy fight, 2 easy fights to get the hardest fight, to get the big fight on the back end, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, they don't think of it like we're paying him $35 million to fight Jermell and then $35 million to fight Jamal and then $50 million or whatever it is to fight Benavidez. They're thinking of it like they're going to pay him $120 million to fight the 3 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, they'll give you a little bit on the front end, but you got to give it to him on the back end. He don't want no part of Benavidez. Shit, man. It's pretty fucking apparent over the last 3 years. And again, this got nothing to do with PBC.
But Pete, what about Benavidez straight up saying, no, I will not go to the zone to fight him?
If you listen to the entire clip, right? If you listen to the entire thing, he asked him about that. He goes, fuck no, I'm not chasing this guy all around the fucking boxing industry. Look, they offered him, now again, I know, let's just say this never happened. But that doesn't mean he's a fucking liar. He's just telling you what he's not at the table. He's not looking at a wire transfer or some kind of an agreement, right? This is just the fighter you're talking to, or his dad / manager, right? So I understand that, what's his name, Samson, and it could be lying to them, to his own client. I get it. All right. But look, just as far as he goes, he's saying, look, they offered him his money. If it's 60 million, if it's 55 million, if it's 35, whatever it is, I agreed to take the minimum just for the opportunity. That's exactly like Bivol said. Remember when Bivol was saying the same thing? Look, they came in, they said, we're going to pay you $4 million or $5 million, whatever it is, the minimum.
You got $2
million. Okay, fine. $2 million. It's at 175. I'm coming in first, you're coming in second, or you're coming in first, I'm coming in second. You don't get a national anthem, I get a national, the whole fucking whatever. I just want the opportunity. Let's do it. And it worked out.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Who do you think is a tougher fight? First Triple G fight against Canelo, like who would have been a tougher fight for Canelo? When he first fought Triple G in the first fight, or Benavidez?
Tough. About equally as tough.
That's a hard answer. That's a hard answer. That's a hard question to answer because
they're both great fights.
Remember,
what up, Recognize?
Benavidez, if he fights Canelo, Canelo will be older, and you know, I think that the Triple G that he fought was probably better than Benavidez right now, right?
Exactly.
At least pound for pound, I think he was better, so he was more of a threat. But remember, also Canelo was younger too, so you know, so it might be when they go into that fight, that might be Canelo's toughest fight because of the circumstances, and being older. Benavidez is a lot younger, he's a lot bigger. On top of that, you know, so that could be the case come fight night, you know.
And the reason for my question, my thing is this, right? We've seen, and again, you look at past. What you kind of, if you want to gauge future, you look at history, and history is this, right? Exactly. And so my point being that Canelo has fought when he didn't have to, when everybody was saying he's avoiding the slick fighter, he purposely said, I want Trout. He said, I want to fight Lara. He did fight Triple G 3 times. Again, the third fight, I don't blame him. That third fight should have never happened. That should be thrown in the bin of history. Then he went up to fight Bivol when nobody wanted to fight that guy, light heavyweight. My point being, that's why I can't see ducking Benavidez. Maybe because I don't rate him like that. I think he's tough. He's, you know, interesting and shit. And it'll come down to, will his size be too much? But his style, he's not a one-punch knockout artist. He doesn't have that kind of power. In fact, he doesn't even hit as hard as when Triple G did. And Canelo took his best shot in the 10th round of that second fight. And I think Munguia, man, because he fights at distance, that could give Canelo more of trouble than Benavidez. Because for Benavidez to do his work, his damage, he has to be in the fucking, you know what I mean? He has to be in your chest with his uppercuts and his, you know, his brawling, mauling style. But that's also plays to Canelo's benefit. He doesn't have to go reaching for the taller man. So my point is, like, and then if you, again, about history, who is Benavidez fight? Why is he gone his whole career never fighting anyone of note? No one.
No one.
Handpicked no-hoper after handpicked no-hoper.
And by the way, you know, Benavidez
I agree with you.
Benavidez says, like, I won't be chasing. Benavidez goes, like, I won't be chasing Canelo all over the place. Like, no, you don't have to chase. Just go to the zone. He should have said, I'll fight him anywhere, anytime. I'll fight him anywhere.
If he had said yes and went to the zone, he'd be over at the zone, and Canelo would be back at PBC right now, Pucho.
Al Haymon's like my father. He's been treating me okay. That's what Leo Santa Cruz said, by the way, whose career went to shit for staying with Al Haymon. But by the way, let's take a phone call. Let's take a phone call and a super chat. All right, guys. I'm a PvP. Thank you for your super chat. He says, Notice that the people who believe Canelo is talking don't believe Benavidez can beat Bivol. The hate is clear as day. Fucking logic. Interesting. That's a great point. And now we're going to take a phone call. This guy has been waiting for a while. 301, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up, guys? Am I coming in clear?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Excellent. I don't want any Apocopo wireless accusations, right? I have a nice provider. I don't want to hear any of this. I was gonna just rattle off a bunch of basic questions like the other caller. That was my favorite call. He was like, "And what color shorts were they gonna wear? How many rounds is it scheduled for? What weight class is this in?" He wanted to control the frame. But he actually ended up sounding like a complete utter retard. It was really,
he's trying to become this lawyer. Yeah, the fucking lawyer. Go ahead.
Yeah. Excellent. I was listening to Pete, and he kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that I more or less agree with the angle he's presenting because, like, if you just think back to how Canelo carried himself after the second Golovkin fight, that just tells you everything you need to know. Who did he go fighting? Rocky Fielding, Danny Jacobs, these are a calculated move to just kind of kick the can down the road and exploit the bidding war that we saw in boxing. And if you look at the fights he has with non-profile fighters, like who is that guy? The gorilla guy. And his name escapes me, but the super middleweight who was robbed against Callum Smith. You know who I'm talking about.
Ryder.
Who he fought
John
in
Ryder.
City. Yeah, John Ryder. Yeah, he did about take numbers from what I understand, right? He sold like 350, 300, something like that. Nothing impressive. So you can't say that Canelo is by himself worth, tens of millions of dollars. He's not bringing that in unless the other guy across from him has a similar kind of interest or stirs up the public.
They never released the Ryder numbers.
Well, okay, maybe not, but I saw figures that intimated around 350. Well, I mean, just out of curiosity, does anyone here think that fight broke even?
I don't know.
With the gate?
Well, just if you were going to
how much they paid Ryder. I don't remember how much they paid Ryder.
Well, just going off Canelo's salary, I mean, Ryder's take-home is probably insignificant. Right.
Yeah, and, probably didn't make a ton of money. I agree with you.
And even with Bivol, I believe the numbers were around $500,000, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Eddie Hearn did come out and say that, right?
I thought he said 800,000. I thought with Bivol, I thought he said a little over 800,000.
I'd be surprised. I saw $500,000, but I thought that was Plant. That was 800,000.
Yeah, Plant was too, and then Bivol was around the same. Around his Plant, Triple G was 1.2 million.
Pay-per-view
Triple G 3 or Triple G?
Yes, it's hard because of DAZN, because it's subscriber based.
Yeah, it includes subscribers who just tune in. So I think when you actually look at, if you were to structure it as new subscribers to a pay-per-view and not just recurring, when I saw it was on $500,000. So I don't think those fights made those promoters any money. Maybe broke even at best. So yeah, Canelo has a profile, but it's not like he can just fight anybody and a huge number of people are going to tune in. And yeah, I think he's not really interested in fighting Benavidez. I think he was trying to play him the same way Benavidez might be trying to play him in terms of age. He's trying to get him to be too big for the weight class. So that's probably part of the consideration too. I don't think he's going to fight him on just, a gung-ho instinct. Because again, he dug Triple G for the third fight. I don't think there's any argument there. That second fight was hellacious for him. And as it went longer, Triple G was getting more accurate. So if they ran it back, I think he wasn't confident that he would make it through. But that's just my take, Ion. I don't see Canelo as this huge duck, but I don't see him as this, guy gunning for every challenge either. He's kind of very political about it. Maybe not as bad as Mayweather, because Mayweather fought people who like absolutely useless, like in a row, like Maidana and Guerrero and the Haitian guy, but yeah, or Ortiz too. Yeah. In a time that he should have been fighting obvious other challengers. But yeah, Canelo doesn't inspire the same kind of feeling. I think that we've kind of lost a generation in boxing, honestly, due to this whole like interpromotional bidding war. Since HBO and Showtime lost their dominance, and it's been for the worse because we've seen fighters like Mikey Garcia, Tank Davis, guys who are obviously not in it to make a legacy.
I agree with you, and I agree that things have changed. But like you said, I mean, boxers have changed. Now we have boxers, talking about a promoter or advisor or whatever he is, like Al Haymon, and talking about this guy as he takes care of me. He's like my father. What the fuck? When did you ever hear that before?
Maybe he is.
Maybe he brainwashed
Bucho, maybe he is like his father. Maybe he's really like a dad to him,
I mean, but they seem to be brainwashed, so maybe, they believe he's like a second father or something. It's weird, but go ahead, caller.
Maybe he has them all over for a retreat.
What's that, caller?
Sorry, what? Oh, I was going to say, maybe he has them all over for a retreat, gets them all together in the room, does meditation, ayahuasca, or whatever.
Yeah, he has them on something.
But yeah.
Caller, we got to move on. We have other phone calls.
Sure.
Thank you for calling, all right? Take care.
Yep, no problem. Have a good one.
All right.
Hey, Bucho.
Yes, Jimmy.
Do you know how, I think it was it Spence? So one of them recently said, I actually talked to him, or was it one of the Russells? Like, there's guys who have signed for Al Haymon and fought him for years who've never even spoken to him. Like, I guess that's a big deal. That means you're within, like, you're in the inner circle if you even speak to him. He doesn't even speak to these guys. He has conduits to it, like Mayweather or Tom Brown. Tom Brown's running right now, even in a negotiation, it's Tom Brown.
Right.
Who stepped up. He's the one who's actually doing. Haymon's not even involved, supposedly.
I actually heard his voice. He's
running a Ponzi scheme and money laundering. That's why
his mom died.
Why is
I want to say that the rumor is his mom died.
Why
heard that too. The thing about it is, like, guys, the boxers, I don't know about calling them their daddy or whatever, but
they said that.
The boxers, dude, if I'm fighting 4 times a year for $1 million a fight, and this guy's going to, so that's $4 million a year, right? And I fight 4 times. If somebody's going to come along, right? Al Haymon's going to come along and pay me $3 million a fight or $6 million a fight to fight twice, right? He's going to triple my pay, and I'm going to have to fight half as many fights. It's like, I don't care if I ever meet him or not. I'm not, or if I do meet him, yeah, he's been great to me. So it's like you can't expect the boxers to bitch. They're going to do nothing but be all about this. You know what I'm trying to say? They just happen to be, a part of a money laundering operation, but they happen to be one of the beneficiaries of it.
I agree.
And look, if he could pay him 6, if he could pay him 10 with a straight face, he'd do it because he's going to take $1.5 million from that. If he could pay him $100 million,
when it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. There's something there. There's another side to the story. And yes, they were at the beginning. Yeah, you're gonna.
It's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny if you hear Benavidez, right, in the interview that they did. It was like a short clip. I didn't see the whole interview. So he says that he was willing to take the $5 million, right, to fight Canelo. But then he says something that I said, damn, that's such a fucking bad deal, right? He's like, he says, so I take the bare minimum of $5 million. He goes, then I got right off the bat, I got to pay my team $1.5 million. Right now, he didn't get to like descriptive what he means by his team. He just said my team, $1.5 million. He goes, that's before I have to pay taxes. I'm like, damn. So you're probably coming home with less than half of the $5 million if he's telling the truth, because you got to pay Al Haymon.
Yep.
Right. Like that's got to be part of the team. When he says team. I'm thinking
trainers usually get 15%. That's the industry standard. So you figure Haymon's taking 15%. His trainer's taking 15%. He has to pay Sam Lukowitz and after capital gains tax. If he took it all in one lump sum, if he got paid $5 million, his take home probably around 1.75 $1.5 million.
That's bad.
He doesn't pay his own promoter, but it's the other way around. But yeah, you're right. He's just, and his point is number one. Look, what they told me that they're going to pay the minimum. This is what his father basically said a little bit more. He just like, look, that's what he starts out at, $5 million, whatever. We'll take it. We don't give a fuck if we win or fucking lose. We just want the opportunity to fight. Or if not, then tell us that and we're going to go do something else. And then what he was also saying was, again, it's like, dude, like if you were selling something and you want, you're selling your truck and you wanted $30,000 for it, and somebody came by and just was willing to give you $45,000 for it, and because they stole that money, they stole a fucking $100,000 from somewhere else. They just stole this. They just robbed a bank for $100,000, and they're willing to pay you $10,000 over what you want for your truck. Well, hey, too bad for the bank, but I'll take it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna fucking turn that down. I'll take it. That's his business where he got the money from. That's where these boxers are coming from with it. I don't know about calling him daddy, but I'm sure they're quite happy with the arrangement so far. Now it's going to change.
Well, yeah.
To be fair, Leo Santa Cruz named his son after Al.
Yeah, that's a weird.
Wasn't his daughter? I thought it was his daughter.
His daughter? Oh, bro.
And by the way, so there's
one
more thing here, though, because Jimmy said that in those PBC contracts, you can't talk about what's in the contract, right? You can't complain about.
No, you can't. Stuff. Non-disclosure agreements. Every one of them sign them.
There you go.
Right. It's
there you go.
Listen, anybody who puts an NDA in a contract, right, should always be looked at as suspect, and that's for anybody. If it's a boxer, if it's a promoter,
movie producer,
you should know right there. There's something that they don't want you to know.
Yeah, that's a Harvey clause.
Yeah, he has basically.
Haymon always hiding NDAs. Come on, red flags here and there. Go ahead, Jimmy.
And actually, Kid Austin, who fights for Golden Boy, his father was in the music industry also. And when he went and met with Al Haymon and he was given a contract to go over, he said it was exactly like a music contract in every way. It's like he just changed the names of music acts to boxer and fighter. He not only has you, he has your likeness, meaning you couldn't even go on. You're a PBC fighter. If you get paid for anything, if you go on a podcast and they slip you some money, Al Haymon gets 15% of that. He owns your name, your likeness. Here's another thing. It's his progressive, his contracts. The more money you get, the longer he owns you. Meaning, if you reach a certain plateau, you get $2 million, it automatically extends your contract for 2 years. That was part of his contract. Yep.
If you get a signing bonus from PBC of $1 million or $5 million. Al Haymon gets 50% of that, right?
Yeah, at least 15%. Yeah, any money paid to you, he owns your likeness. But that's the sneaky thing. You automatically, like Adrian Broner found out. He was like, how am I keep on? I thought I was done here. And they're like, no, because you made X amount of dollars. So every time you hit a certain dollar amount, you automatically get re-signed automatically to the PBC.
We were here when somebody leaked out a copy of one of the templates of the contract. I mean, you can fucking read it. It's pretty lock solid. But all I'm saying is, if I'm a fighter and this guy comes along to me and says, "Take me on as your advisor," you already have a manager taking 15. You already have a trainer. You got to pay 10% to. That's out of your end of it after you're paid. But hire me for another 15%. You wouldn't normally do it, except if the guy's going to up your pay by 30, 40, 50%. Well, then you just back that 50, then it's a deal. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna double your money, then shit, I just gave you an 85% pay raise. I mean, yeah, it's gonna cost you another 15% to sign with me, but I'm gonna hit you with a $5 million signing bonus that I just stole. I just stole $5 million. I'm gonna hand it to you just to sign, right? Or $1 million, and I'm gonna take a 1.5 out of it. I'm gonna kick it back to myself. So for the fighters, I really can't blame them to this point. It's going to get a hell of a lot more difficult for them going forward because that's gone. And I think we've seen that the last couple of years, man. It is what it is. But I got to say, like, to get locked up like Benavidez is saying, look, I make $7 million, $7.5 million fighting Plant and Andrade. Right? He's saying, all he was saying was I took less money to fight my hardest fight of my career in Canelo. So what the fuck else you want me to do?
He said he made $7 million.
Yes,
because it was declared through Forbes, which gets the tax thing, and he got guaranteed $2 million for Plant, and an upside, the back end money for pay-per-views, but the pay-per-view has to sell X amount of before reach that.
His father, who's his manager. That's another thing Al Haymon does. He goes, if you got a manager already, get rid of him. If you can't get rid of him as soon as you can, because make your trainer your manager. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need a manager. I'm going to be your manager. I just don't want to be called that. Because if I do, then I got to lock into the Ali Act. I want to be an advisor.
Well, the reason for the Ali Act, one of the reasons, man, I can't remember the fighter's name, but I always remember the story. He was signed to the fucking big haired dude back in the day. He made his first $1 million. Yeah, check this out. He made his first $1 million payday, right? But after all said and done, right, he owed $80,000. So not only did he get a dime, he literally walked away from the fight in the negative 80 grand.
All right, guys, let's take a phone call. Guys, this guy has been waiting.
Was it Witherspoon? Was it? Okay, thank you.
Guys, this guy has been waiting for a long time. 918, you're on the air.
Yo, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, well, again, the luscious, ferocious Joe Biscuit here to talk about. Am I allowed to say my prediction yet or no?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think I got AJ by unanimous decision. I think a lot of folks are really underrating AJ. I mean, it's pretty clear and obvious that Fury and Wilder were both hype jobs, and y'all fell for the PBC. I'm not saying y'all, but like the people who like voted for Ngannou and Fury to all win. Y'all just fell for the PBC's ploy and making Fury and fucking Wilder better than they actually are. I mean, we saw literally Parker, a guy who AJ, honestly, let's be honest here, he beat him convincingly, both at the time where they're both undefeated. And Parker made Wilder look like a complete amateur. That man looked like he didn't even belong in there. That's the man that took Fury to hell and back in the first fight.
I wouldn't say he beat him easily.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at stats and looking at the fact that Wilder didn't land anything and looked frustrated.
AJ and Parker.
Oh, okay. Wow, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That's what I got right now. Another thing is, I'm sorry, I'm just jumping around right now. Another thing is just, what do you guys' thoughts on Canelo Lopez? Like, do you guys think he's currently the best featherweight right now out of all the other 4 champions? Or, because I don't know about you, but I mean, his style is kind of weird. Yeah. But like what I've been noticing a lot is because he leaves himself super open. It's almost like that old trick your parents used to play on you, your siblings. They would hang like a toy or something in front of you. Hey, come and get this. And then they know that's what you're going to do. You're going to grab it, and they snatch it away. It seems like Luis keeps on doing that, where he leaves himself blatantly open, where all these guys are like, oh, I need a counter. They go 8 mode. They go in for the counter, and Luis already has a punch ready for them, a counter for the counter. Because I kept seeing the Abe, he kept running into hooks all the time, hooks that were pretty blatantly obviously there, but he was just too preoccupied with that opening, that massive opening that Luis Lopez is just opening.
Bro, you got mean parents.
Yeah.
Jimmy, is he talking about Ray Ford? What was he talking about?
When he said, it's what your parents play on you, that's why I said, wow, you got mean parents. That's what your parents are doing here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm Latino, so it's like, yeah. Latino Afro, so it's like, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Mom's pretty cool, and Dad's pretty cool as well, but yeah. No,
I agree with you. No, Caller, I agree with you. Benalo Lopez, he's somebody called him the Mayorga, the new Ricardo Mayorga. Caller, you have a lot of background noise. So I don't know. We're gonna move on.
My bad.
I hear the highway or something. All right, but thanks for the call. All right, take care.
No problem. Take care.
Mucho, he's talking about Granado Lopez, right? He's talking about Granado.
Lopez. Venado, yeah. His style is pretty wild, and it's true that Japanese guy was tying him. But the Japanese boxer, he lacked power, but still he was landing some shots there. So I'm like, this guy.
Hey, you know what I like? Bucho?
Yeah,
I like that kid Ray Ford. He's flawed, but he's got some. That kid got some grit, man. He's got like some fucking that inner warrior
power, man.
I missed that fight.
Well, he stopped his opponent. That's good. No, he looked.
Hey, Bucho.
Yes.
Hey, did you guys, just to bring it up real quick, did you guys happen to see fucking O'Hare Garcia on with Andrew Tate That dude is saying some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Talking about he was at the Bohemian Grove. That's where they go and they rape young children and shit. Like it was done to me, as he said.
He said they held him down and they made him watch.
Oh my God, man!
Jimmy, just to clarify, there's no proof that they're raping kids at Bohemian Grove. We just have to say that to cover our asses.
Okay, but isn't that what he said? Though he was at the Bohemian Grove, and then Tate said, "Okay, do you have that on? I got it all, man. I got it all on video." So the secret organization was letting you whip your cell phone out and videotape everything. The dude's clearly losing his marbles. I just wanted to say. I don't know if everybody else heard that. Crazy shit.
Yeah, he's lost his mind, I think.
Let me say this about, before you guys start talking about the Garcia thing, that the previous caller, he mentioned the Ngannou Joshua and how a lot of people are picking Ngannou. Well, he was referring to the fact that according to our poll, well, the poll that you put up there, Bucho, which has 14,000 votes as of right now, Anthony Joshua, 53% of people are picking him. 47 are picking Ngannou. So evidently there's a lot of people out there that were impressed with what Ngannou was able to do against Fury, and therefore they're probably looking at this fight thinking, okay, Joshua is considered chinny, Ngannou's heavy-handed, therefore there's a good chance that he's going to drop or and stop Anthony Joshua. So I just wanted to clarify that. That is according to the poll you put up.
AJ,
do you think a lot of that's MMA fans?
AJ's going to sleep him, man. AJ's going to sleep Ngannou.
Yep.
He's going to sleep him.
It's going to be a wash. Fucking wash him.
All right, guys, let's take a phone call here. We have a bunch of phone calls. Who's been waiting the longest? Oh, this guy has been waiting for 17 minutes. 410. 410, you're on the air.
What's up, fellas?
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? Yeah, what's up, buddy? Anthony Joshua deserves to... That 53%, the fact that it's almost 50-50, he deserves that. This guy, I don't know why people give him a pass. We seen what Ruiz was a 19-1 underdog and elite replacement. Beat him up, beat him down, knocked him down 4 times, made him quit. He fights Usyk. He tries to box with Usyk. He gets soundly outboxed in the first fight, comes back in the second fight and fights the exact same fight and gets outboxed again. Knocks over a few stiffs, and here he is fighting Ngannou. Really, he should be criticized for that. He's fighting a guy that has one fight that he lost. Anyone could see Tyson Fury did not train for that guy. He was at a career high weight. Says he trained for 12 weeks. Bullshit. He took a vacation from his wife and kids for 12 weeks. He did not take him seriously, and that was the crux of Ngannou's success. But I would say this. If Ngannou improved his hand speed a little and fights with a little bit more aggression, I'd say he absolutely has a 50-50 shot at KOing AJ.
Whoa. Oh.
And guys, there's also Ngannou has some amateur fights that was never talked about. When he was in Africa, he did fight in the amateurs.
And in France?
He did. And
he went to France as a young man in his early 20s, but growing up in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very clear watching him in the first fight that he can box. Is he the best boxer you've ever seen? No, but he knows he changed levels in the fight. He's got boxing in his background. It's just that simple. Plus, he's a very physical guy, big dude. He can certainly punch hard enough to KO a heavyweight. And, I'm not. My thing is, I'm not going to be too impressed if AJ beats him. AJ, in my opinion, why not fight a rematch with Parker? Because I kind of disagree with your last caller. That first fight, that fight went the distance, and Parker wasn't as good then as he is now. And title or no title, undefeated or not, he just wasn't. He's become a better fighter since then. Or AJ could have fought.
Didn't Parker give him a? Parker was competitive when he fought AJ. He was competitive.
He was. He lost. Yeah, he lost. I thought he lost, but that, plenty of fighters have lost a fight. AJ himself got tore up by Ruiz, but then he made adjustments, came back the second fight, got a victory over Ruiz. I mean, there's a million examples, right? So, you know, I'm disappointed that he's even fighting this guy, really. And from what I know, and I don't know, but they released the numbers that you heard that Fury did with this guy, they were pathetic. So I just don't understand. I mean, is they expect to make big money on the fight? Maybe it'll do better. I don't know. But I also want to speak briefly on Canelo Alvarez. I've been a Canelo Alvarez fan his entire career. I've bought every single pay-per-view, even for fights that I didn't think would be competitive. I supported the guy the whole way. He's never been a guy to duck guys. You know, I've defended him. People said he was ducking Golovkin. The reality is he fought Golovkin in his very first fight at middleweight and his second fight. He didn't duck nobody that I can see, really. Has he had fights in the middle, like against Khan and Kirkland and this one and that one? Sure. But everybody's going to do that, especially if you're a moneymaker, right? You're going to fight fights like that. Your promoters are going to have you fight fights like that for the money. But then every third or fourth fight, you know, he'd give you the one you want, and then he went on that super middleweight run. But where he's at now, in my estimation, simply put, flat out, he does not want to fight David Benavidez. Just doesn't want to do it. If he wanted to do it, he can make that fight happen tonight. He's the cash guy, and there's no beating around the bush, man. If Canelo wanted to fight him, this guy's been the mandatory for a good while now. He's fought eliminators, one after another. Every time you see him, he mentions Canelo. Now, he doesn't try to punk him, which maybe he could do that, but he mentions him. He wants to fight him. Why wouldn't he? He's never going to see a payday like that. And Canelo just does not seem to want it at this point in his career.
Why do you think Canelo does not want to fight Benavidez? Why?
Very simply, he could possibly lose to him. And let's face it, David's not a big ticket item. And he's not even, you know, like in the grand scheme of things, how much credit will he get? It's not like David has established himself as some great iconic fighter himself. So it's really not a legacy fight necessarily to hardcore fans. It probably is. I know to me it would be. But then you got to think, is it going to generate big money to equal the risk? I don't know. It's hard to say. Probably not. And let's face it, man, David Benavidez, he's a beast of a fighter. He just is. He's just a flat-out beast.
What, Jerry, I just want to say that Benavidez, he's been the WBC #1, but he hasn't been his mandatory.
Well, that's what they say he is. I mean, last time I seen him fight, he had 3 WBC interim belts. They can't make this guy another belt. They put him off any further. They had three different.
But mandatory
belts.
is a specific thing. That means you're mandated by the WBC to be the next opponent.
Well, if you look at the WBC rankings, if I'm not mistaken, he's the #1 guy.
He is, but being #1 and being mandatory are two separate items, two separate deals.
I think
that's a technicality that I don't really buy into, because David is a guy. He's been a guy for a couple years now. Everybody knows that. The division's really not that deep. And Canelo's beat all the guys. And now you got Morrell, who's only got a handful of fights. He hasn't done it. But you got Jamie Munguia has surged as a possible opponent, of course, and then the Puerto Rican dude who, I mean, David's the guy. He's the guy. But Canelo has fought everybody in the division. He's the top guy. It's been a couple years. He's been the top guy. And it's just time to fight him. It's either time to fight him or give up that WBC belt, which is not going to happen. They're favoring Canelo. They should be forcing him to fight this guy at some point. You want to fight a Charlo moving up 2 divisions? You want to fight a Ryder to make some money? I get that. But after 3 or 4 of those, you got to fight the top guy.
That's why Suleiman just said, bro, Suleiman came out last week and finally said that he was going to mandate the fight, meaning if Canelo doesn't fight him, he could get stripped. Like right now, he's only been, but that's the thing too, Carla, right? Like it was just recently reported on that they've never even reached out to Suleiman. The people in Benavidez never even reached out and said, hey, make us the mandatory. not just on number one. Make us mandatories, meaning if you don't fight us after you're, and say if he has a fight coming up with IBF, after that fight or whatever, if you don't fight us, you can be stripped. And they never did. They never mandated that fight.
Yeah, I get that, but if you think about it, him putting that type of stipulation is probably not advantageous for him, because that's likely going to do nothing but anger Canelo, and he's going to be even more like, fuck it, I'm not fighting you anyway. I just don't, I can kind of understand why.
But then he would have to hand his belt over. He would have to give his belt to him.
Yeah, but then you get the belt, but you don't get the fight. And what Benavidez wants, I mean, is the fight, right? He wants the money that comes along with fighting Canelo and the prestige that could possibly come along with beating him. Having the title just made vacant, and he picks that up, that ain't going to do shit for him. That ain't going to do nothing for him. So
I agree with you, Jerry. I think I want to see the fight too. Don't get me wrong. I want to see it. I'm just putting out the what's going on. If he was mandated, yes, and he didn't fight him, he would have to give up his belt if he ducked a mandatory. But the fact that WBC, and to be honest with you, I can't see the WBC so afraid of pissing Canelo off. I can't see them mandating anybody. That's just being honest.
I just don't know, and maybe I missed something, how you can be the number one contender and not be mandated. What do you have to suggest or request that they mandate that the number one guy gets a shot?
Usually, because remember, there's 4 belts. So that means it'd be 4 mandatories. If all it meant to be number one is you were mandated, that means you would be constantly fighting mandated fighters, meaning if you had all 4 bites, that means so you'd fight the IBF, then the WBA, then the WBO, then the WBC, and then who says who gets what fight first. So that's why it's kind of important, the language, when somebody's in mandatory, like, you know what I mean, to fight. And when they've done a bunch of times. In fact, like Jamel Charlo, he just had to hand his belt over. It's how Tszyu got his belt, because he was the mandatory, and Charlo didn't fight him. So he got his belt taken. Crawford, the same thing, which was ridiculous. It was only 6 weeks after he fought fucking Crawford, but he didn't fucking sign his IBF mandatory slip, so they pulled the belt from him. That's what's the difference with being a mandated fighter. And again, the belts drive me crazy too. I'm just keeping it honest with the language. That's all.
Okay, I get it. Man, I come from an era before the 4-belt era, and I'm not a fan of the 4-belt era, man. It just complicates matters. People don't know who the champions are in any given division, and it just fucking waters down the whole fucking sport. I'm not a favor of these guys getting belts that they don't fight for. Used to be, if the title became vacant, you had to fight the next contender. You had to fight the number 2 guy or the next guy available. Now they just say, well, we're just going to give you the belt.
All right. Guys, we gotta move on. We got a bunch of phone calls here, but caller, great call.
All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good call, Jerry.
Yeah, great call.
I agree 100% with that caller.
I do too. I agree with him. I wasn't disagreeing with him. I just wanted to be sure about the language, because it's important about mandatory being number one. And Pete's right. The WBC is not going to fucking force Canelo, because what Canelo did last time, threw it in a barrel. So good, fuck off. And remember,
the point that he made,
what's that, brother?
The point that he made about how the fight is a big risk fight, and David Benavidez not really being a fucking big name. You know, he doesn't have anybody really big in his resume. He only did 70,000 buys. I mean, he's really kind of low risk. High risk, low reward. He is that type of person. So Canelo's probably looking at that. Okay, he is looking at that. Okay, yes, he's fought Triple G when Triple G was undefeated and all that stuff. But that was a big reward. Okay, that fight was a big reward for him, right? There was a big upside for that. And so with this one, I think Canelo views this as he can only lose in this situation, even if he wins, right? Let's say he wins a close fight or whatever, they're going to be like, who the fuck is Benavidez, right?
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
Well, he can only lose.
If he were to fight Benavidez, even if we were to fight him at 168, if he were to beat him, that'd be fucking huge for Canelo. That'd be fucking gigantic, dude.
Well, I think it's how he beats him. Jimmy, Pete. Yeah. I think it's how he beats him. It's how he beats him. If he beats him in a close fight, right, where he takes some wear and tear, in that fight. Remember, the guy he wants to continue fighting for the next couple of years, and he takes some wear and tear. He probably views that as an L, even if he was to win that fight. Now, if he goes in there and he fucking washes Benavidez, yeah, then the payoff would he'll get a nice big payday, and then he'll be like, man, that fight turned out way better than I thought. But I don't think Canelo thinks he can just wash Benavidez. I don't think he thinks that in his mind.
Here's the thing, though. No, just like he never thought he could wash Golovkin or even Bivol, But Canelo is somebody that listens to public opinion. Like he if you look at his interview, especially on Spanish TV, and he gets pissed off. It's high risk. He addresses points that the public make about this and that, and so I see it very difficult for him to retire, not having fought somebody like
I don't,
because he would never hear the end of it.
Sure, but I don't think Bucho, you see what's going on here. This is just like Mayweather and Pacquiao, dude. Eventually, Mayweather fought Pacquiao, but the fight was for shit. The fucking too much time had passed.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to say, like, dude, I agree. All I'm saying is, look, this. Canelo's entire fucking approach to this thing is to wait until Benavidez moves up to light heavyweight, move up to light heavyweight, and not just move up to fight Vosdick, because he's not going to move all the way up. He's not going to move his walking around weight up to 185, 190 pounds, 200, 205 pounds, and really fight light heavyweight against Vosdick if he fights that. But if he fights against Bivol, or if he fights against Beterbiev, if he really goes to light heavyweight, he's going to have to gain weight. And then he's going to try to drag him back down to 168, just like Floyd did to him. Floyd could have fought him when they were both welterweights. He waited for him to move up to 154, then he dragged him back down to 152. Then he beat him because of the weight cut. And then Canelo went on his way and never fought at 154 again after that. That's exactly what this is all about. If he fights him, it's going to be just like waiting 18 months to fight Triple G in the first fight. It's going to be just like Floyd did to him and to Canelo in their fight. He's just playing this A-side bullshit. It's everything that's wrong with boxing, dude. You can't have one guy bigger than the sport. It's fucked up.
Well, right now, I would say Munguia is probably his biggest financial payout. Munguia's got a big fan base, and he's got all of Mexico. That'd be an all-Mexican thing. And if they held it like Mexico City, that shit would be fucking huge.
Hey, Jimmy,
huge.
Why isn't, before we take a phone
call, he ain't getting more money to
before
fight
we take a phone call,
than he is Benavidez. Go, Bucho.
Before we take a phone call, why isn't Benavidez that big of a star, Jimmy?
Well, that's just it. Munguia's numbers crush Benavidez's numbers right across the board. Attendance, fucking, in every metric that you would use to say who's a bigger star. Munguia's numbers. I mean, you've seen the crowds he pulls in. He pulls in big crowds. He's a fan-friendly fighter. And plus, going against the other Mexicans, remember, it's like a lot of Mexicans don't like Canelo. A lot of them love him. So you got a lot of the people like that would be a big fight in Mexico City. That would be a huge fight.
What's the better fight?
Right now, I would say I'd slightly say Benavidez is the better, more slightly, not much more. In my opinion, guys, I think Canelo knocks fucking Benavidez the fuck out probably by the 8th round. But that's just my opinion.
Let's take a phone call here. 510-510, you're on the air.
What's up, Jimmy? What's up? Shout out to Recognize as always. And just wanted to call in. Shout out to Uncle Pete. You know, he's saying what's pretty much on my mind. At least they're going to listen to you. Maybe it's because I don't know why they would listen to you. I don't want to say, disparage the show. So I greatly appreciate, you coming out, having the conversation. That's what it's about. I'm not surprised that, as you mentioned, even with the Al Haymon thing, it's the same shit. I thought the same exact thing about the feelings of the fighters. That's, if I was going to pay that much money to not do shit, that's exactly what I would do. I don't know why you guys give them a lot of shit, but yeah, that's it, man. Once again, shout out to you, Pete. I greatly respect you, so I respect your opinion.
All right. Bro. Anything else, caller?
I think he hung up.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay.
The thing is, though, Pete, we're all pretty much agreeing with what Pete's saying. We're not, really off on our opinions. I mean, I want to see the Benavidez fight, too, and I think it's the toughest fight, and that's the one I want to see. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what I think? Go ahead, Pete.
I said, you know what I think the real, disconnect is? Not disagreement, but just the the contrast is. It's what you said about Canelo. See, when I look at that fight, and I think when Eddie Reynoso or somebody like Eddie Reynoso, who's basically obviously got Canelo's ear, looks at that fight, it's like the range issue that he had with Bivol, to where, look, Canelo doesn't like to move his feet and punch at the same time. Not that you do it at the exact same time, but he's either in this mode where he's moving his feet or he's setting up and punching. And that gap between those two positions is very, very abrupt with him. There's no flow with that. It's very... So closing distance with his feet's a real problem for him. And I don't think it's Benavidez' size, like he's going to be laying on him or something, or like, wrestling with him or something. I think it's just his range. And I know he does fight a lot inside. He does hook off and he does throw a lot of uppercuts and he gets it. But dude, he's got a lot of range. He's got Bivol type of range.
Well, he throws a right hand, like you said. He'll throw that right off. He'll crazy foot you. Basically, he'll step with his left foot forward. His right hand comes out. He catches a lot of people with that punch because it's a very awkward thing. And if he fights from distance, but the difference is Benavidez doesn't throw many jabs. He doesn't stick. He never uses his length to his benefit. Whereas Munguia, who's a little taller than Canelo, he'll fight from a distance, and he actually has power. It works in the mid-range to outward. I mean, he like in Wilder, his power's out at the end of his punch. Like you saw those punches he hurt Ryder with. He was far enough away where, like too far, where Canelo would be in Canelo's danger zone. So okay, that's where I you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, forget Munguia just for 1 second. Shelf Munguia. I'm just saying, the issue with the Benavidez-Canelo fight, as far as Eddie Reynoso sees, as far as I see, maybe everybody doesn't agree, but he's going to have an issue with Benavidez's range. I know he doesn't always use it, but if he uses it, he's not stupid. He watches these fights. He can see that Canelo doesn't like to move his feet and punch in the same time. He does not like to do that. He's very awkward with that. Stubby legs. He's short. He's small for the division. And when he's fighting these bigger guys, he has a problem with their range. So the problem is this. In the Bivol fight, yes, he had a problem with that range, and yes, he couldn't move his feet and close that distance. He was just lunging and punching. A lot more so than with Golovkin. Okay, because Golovkin's more in the same frame as him, more in the same more in the same body type in terms of reach. So the thing about with Benavidez is if he gets in that same problem that he has with Bivol, where the range comes plus Benavidez's power plus Benavidez's volume and punch selection, that could go really, really bad for Canelo. Not just like Bivol bad where he gets outpointed, because Bivol tell you himself he ain't got no power. Not that he doesn't have any power, it's just not his fighting style. But if it goes wrong like that against Benavidez, he could beat the shit out of him. And
so you're saying,
go ahead.
So you're saying that you think that Benavidez can outbox Canelo at range?
I just think his range would be a problem for Canelo.
Do you think he could beat
Benavidez comes forward, bro, and he throws I think when he throws that right hand, he brings his leg off the ground. And I think a counterpuncher like Canelo, who's been on his front foot for the last couple of years, would love someone to come at him so he could counter the fuck out of him, bro.
Not only that, he squares up.
You know what I'm saying?
He squares the fuck up.
He squared up
because
he's fighting Munguia. Go ahead.
Squares up. We'll see. No, I'm saying Benavidez, he squares up. He's gonna get hit at the body a lot by Canelo. It's an interesting fight though, Pete. I agree with you. That's the fight I want to see. So don't get me wrong. I'm not making excuses. But okay, by the way,
90 seconds.
Shit, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
Wait, hold on, Pete. We need to take 2 phone calls here. 832, you're on the air.
What up? This is Trey G, right? Listen, yo, why are we even talking about Canelo, bro? I feel like every episode y'all talk about this dude, and it's like, bro, we just had the fight of the year probably this weekend, bro. Why don't we talk about that, bro?
Well, I don't know the fight of the year.
And
which one?
What?
60 seconds.
Both of them. It was Ford versus Komatov, right? And it was Venado versus some Asian guy, right?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Like I told B. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Which one? Yeah, like I told BDA, they were hyping this UK dude up, bro, Komatov or whatever. I'm like, bro, y'all haven't really seen this dude fight, and bro, everyone was so they were hyping this dude up like he was gonna quote. Like I even heard someone say he was gonna quote unquote lynch Ford, and I was like, what the fuck? Anyways, it was clear who they wanted to win. Listen, boxing, like, they love these foreigner UK dudes, bro, for whatever reason. Bro, they even said it on TV. They were like, "Oh, Top Rank wants Komatov to win." They just they want to keep the belts. They want to keep the WBA belt at Top Rank, right? Because Ford was with the DAZN, right? And dude, they did everything for. I mean, it was a good fight. Don't get me wrong. It was dramatic and everything, right? But in the 12th round, before Ford stopped the UK dude, what's it called? He dropped the bro. Why
the fuck you say everybody from the UK, bro?
Yeah, well, the UK stand guy, the dude from UK stand or whatever.
How you want us to take what you're saying about him serious if you're like disrespecting him like that?
Okay,
I'm not disrespecting him. I actually think he would be a champion if it wasn't for Ford, right? But this dude, he got dropped, and the referee didn't even score the knockdown, which, you could tell there was a lot of, favoritism going on, right? But he still got him out of there, right? And the dude turned his back, and then, when you turn your back, right, like I said in the past for other fights, right, when you turn your back, that's body language that the fight needs to be stopped, right? Yeah, that's what happened there. And another thing, right, with Ryan Garcia, I think old media and the Jews, they got to Ryan Garcia so he could keep his mouth shut about, more serious topics, outside of boxing. But I could be wrong. He could also be. Listen, maybe he is doing, what he even admitted he does drugs and shit, right? But besides that, I actually think Ryan Garcia is doing something pretty commendable. Yeah. And Joshua versus Ngannou, that's gonna be a hood classic. That's gonna be a fight of the year probably. But I still got Joshua knocking Ngannou out. But don't get it twisted. Just because Ngannou's a UFC guy, right? A lot of people are counting him out, right? But y'all got to keep in mind, like Jimmy said, this guy had a couple good amateur boxing fights, right? And you know how many Thailandese Muay Thai fighters become boxing champions in the lower weight classes? Yo, why can't this dude who has the recorded hardest punch? Why can't he have a chance? That's all I'm saying. I mean,
all right. Great call. All right. Thanks for calling, Straight G. See you next time. Let's take another phone
call. Was that kid Ford fought? Was he from Top Rank? Is he a Top Rank fighter? I thought they were both the zone guys. No.
No, I think Odebek was from Top Rank, but if you'd watch the fight, if you listened to how Timothy Bradley was glazing over Raymond Ford, you would have been fooled into thinking that he was the guy for Top Rank.
Okay. To be honest, I didn't even see the fight yet.
Anyways, let's take last phone call here. 323, you're on the air, 323.
Hello?
Whoa!
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, what the fuck was this fucking nuclear explosion there? There's a lot of background noise. What the fuck? I don't know where you are. I'm gonna unmute you again, but there's a lot of background noise, alright? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, did that dude just get an accident, or was that a sound effect?
It was a joke.
Okay, holy shit.
Great call. All right, we're done with the phone calls, guys.
That's hilarious. Good call.
All right, let's.
And I agree with Pete. Listen, I agree. I like how I always frame the Benavidez fight. It'll come down to this: will his size be too much to Canelo? Because clearly, Canelo, I believe, got a higher IQ, boxing IQ. He's almost impossible to hit clean. His movement from the waist up is unbelievable. But will it come down to, will it just be too much size? Because Benavidez really shrinks himself down. He probably steps in there at least a cruiserweight. Guaranteed he's at least 185 the night of the fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So will he just be too big? But you can say Bivol, right? And it's hard to make the comparison because they fight completely different style, whereas Bivol uses his feet work like a fencer. Dots in, slap, does his little work, bounces out. Doesn't get caught like Canelo a couple times when it gets ropes. Come on in, motherfucker, right? You know what I mean? And instead of, trying to wave him in to get into a fight. And what does Bivol do? Just dots in. There's a couple of two pieces and dots right back out. Like, that's how he uses his feet to win the fights. And unfortunately, he's never developed a 3-4. He just does 1-2 punch. That's his bread and butter. And that's all he did to beat But whereas Benavidez, he comes in more flat-footed, K-stance, drags his foot. He needs to get in close to you to do his damage, and that works into Canelo's favor. So, yeah. And again, I want to see the fight. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to talk down that fight, poo-poo it down, none of that shit. I want to see it too, but I'm not going to be totally upset about a Munguia fight. I don't think that's a scrub fight because his power and hand speed and fights from distance, that'll be actually probably a little more difficult for Canelo as far as dealing with the distance. Because Munguia probably won't stand in front of him.
When I compared B-Ball, I was just talking about...
No, I'm not saying you, Pete. Yeah, I wasn't mentioning you, brother.
Number one. Number two, all I'm saying about Benavidez and Canelo, I say he beats the shit out of Canelo. You say Canelo knocks him the fuck out. That's great. That's cool. We're just talking about a fight. No big deal. It just happens to be the best fight in the 168-pound division.
Agreed.
That's the only reason I want to see the fight. And so I wanted to see the fight since Canelo's been at 168. From the day that Canelo... Now, I know Benavidez did coke, and I know Benavidez missed weight one time, and I lost. He didn't have a belt. 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 I know. All right. But whether belt or no belt, let's not talk casually. Let's talk like we're real fans. You know what I'm trying to say? We really know boxing, so let's not act like casuals with the belts and the mandates. It's just the best fight in the 168 division, and that's why I want to see it. Triple G was the best fight in the middleweight division, and that's why I wanted to see it. When it goes 18 months overdue, it pisses me the fuck off. When this fight here goes 3 years overdue, it pisses me the fuck off. When Pacquiao and Mayweather's the best fight at welterweight, and Floyd fucks around and delays it, by the time the fight comes around, Jimmy, you're the one that went and played hockey. You're the fucking smartest one out of all of them. You saw this coming. I was too naive to realize it. I would have gone and played hockey too if I had fucking had your brain, because you understood that the fight was going to suck. Well, Jimmy just said, fuck it, I'm going to play hockey.
Well, first of all,
meanwhile, the rest of the world crowded around the TV, paid $100, invited friends over, and watched a shitty fight. You see what I'm saying? That's why I want this shit to happen.
I know you're pissed off.
You
need to calm down. All right? I know you're pissed off.
Yeah,
we're all pissed off.
But it's pissed off like it be, you know. I'm just talking.
And Pete, the only reason why I bring up the mandate, and the only reason why I even mention the mandatory is just when callers call in and say he's been his mandatory. Not that you were saying, but I just want to let people know there's a difference from being number one and mandatory. That's all. Because if he was his mandatory, then the WBC, for all intents and purposes, should have already pulled his belt.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
That was the only thing I'm saying. And but yeah, no. Now, so you think that Benavidez beats the shit out of him, huh? That's cool.
Well, he's not the only one. There's a lot of people.
As time goes on, it gets worse and worse for Benavidez in terms of if really makes him move up to 175 and then tries to drag him back down to 168. All right, maybe he beats him in a decision.
Somebody got to explain to me this, man. Explain to me this. Somebody's got to explain this to me. According to going into the fight with Andre, Benavidez, when he started camp, was 215 pounds in good weight, which makes sense because he's about 6'2", 6'3", right? So I want you to keep that in mind. He was like 215. He was walking around 215 pounds in good shape.
Right.
He boils down to 168, right? Boils down to 168 to make the fight against Andre. He goes in there and he fucking beats the shit out of him. It looks like he didn't. It looked like he cut less weight, and then rehydrated perfectly. And I look at Andre, and Andre to me, I would say was at least 180, probably 185, and Benavidez was significantly bigger. I'm going to say at least anywhere from 7 to 10 pounds heavier than. I'm being conservative with that. What the fuck is he taking that can allow him to cut that kind of weight and not be affected at all? Because clearly he wasn't affected. I thought the guy that beat up Andre, and I know Andre is not like this, Hall of Fame fighter. I think that 168-pound performance from Benavidez beats anybody at 168 today. Anybody. My point is, what the fuck was he? What's he taking? What is that? What the fuck is that? That you can boil down, if it's true that he was 215 in good shape going into that fight, going into training camp, and basically you're saying that he lost 50 pounds
50 pounds and wasn't affected at all. He didn't look.
A lot of that, brother, is youth. When you're younger, right? Because your frame doesn't stop growing until 38 years old when your muscles mature. The older he gets, every year that he gets older. What is he now? 26? 27?
Yep.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, every year it's going to get harder and harder. But that's youth. When you're young, you can shed weight. He's probably eating about 20 pounds of muscle, but he carries around some body fat too. So he can be 215, but when he sheds it all off. But every year that goes by, it'll get harder. And to Pete's point, if he does go up to 175, it's going to affect him greatly coming back down to 168. It almost never works out for fighters. Historically, it almost never works out for a fighter to go up to a certain weight and come back down. There's a reason for that. Your body gets used to it.
It didn't work out for Canelo when he did it against Floyd. You know, you could say that made the difference in that fight. You know, he had to go up to 54 and then boil back down to 152. Just that 2 pounds might have fucked him up. He never fought at 154 again after.
Guys, I have to interject. Super chat JA05. He says Rick Geisler is a liar. Geisler, all right. And JA05 again with another super chat. He says if Canelo wanted this fight, it would happen. I don't know why people act like this isn't the case. His comments on Instagram are filled with people calling him a duck. Shouldn't that inspire him to fight Benavidez? Well, he will. That's why I tell you, he cannot retire without fighting Benavidez. That's for sure. Now, Pete's saying that, you know, maybe Canelo has a plan. He's waiting for Benavidez to go to 175 and then drag him back down or something. Maybe. I mean, that's a possibility. But I believe that he will fight Benavidez.
And can I ask one question?
Just real quick. You guys get all like crazy with Mirage, and he is annoying and all. You know, I know he gets like crazy with it. But my only problem with Mirage is I agree with him on the facts, what he's saying. But he is hung up, and he's making the same misstatement that Bucho. I think you're mistaken. He doesn't have to fucking fight him. That's what Mirage can't get through his head. That's what's wrong with boxing. Okay, he can go his whole career.
No,
you know, Eddie Reynoso released a statement about it, and he said, "Look, man." He said, "Look, a lot of fights take a lot of fights never ever happened." And he named 3 fights that never happened. They just never happened. And it's not going to affect his Hall of Fame career. One of the fights he mentioned was Marquez and Morales.
Yeah.
And then he said, and then look, also, guys, sometimes fights take forever. The fans get upset and they just take a long, long time, like Mayweather and Pacquiao. And when I read that, I'm like, dude, Mayweather and Pacquiao sucked. The fight, I don't care that Pacquiao lost. I don't care. The fight was not as good of a fight as it would have been 5-6 years prior.
But it was 5 years past his due date.
Even if Mayweather won, I'm not a Mayweather fan, I'm a Pacquiao fan, but even if Mayweather had won, it still would have been a better fight. Triple G and Canelo 1 and 2 would have been better fights if they had just done them on time.
And
that's all I'm saying.
Okay, and Pete, of course, throughout history, there's been fights that never took place that could have taken place. Absolutely, you know. But when it comes to Canelo, it's not about the historical context here. It's about Mexican context, the Mexican context. What I mean by this is like Canelo is being criticized in Mexico, and that affects him, and you can tell it affects him. He does not want Mexican detractors. Right. And there will be Mexican detractors throughout his whole fucking life if he doesn't fight Benavidez.
Right. But Bucho, that's just to be clear. Reynoso said that, not me. I'm not saying that it's okay. Hey, Morales and Marquez and
Right. That's a weird comment.
That's the guy who's negotiating for him. That's the guy who's running his career saying that, not me.
Yeah, but Pete, when it comes to negotiations, there's a lot of bluffs and stuff like that comes into it, right? He's like, oh, well, we don't really need to fight you. Well. You know, like there's no we don't have. You know, maybe they want more money and stuff, so they come up with these type of statements. But when it comes to Canelo, again, if you look at his character, he gets extremely pissed off when there's Mexican detractors, not American, not British, Mexican detractors. He wants to please all Mexicans, which is obviously impossible. And he won't be able to do that if he does not fight David Benavidez. I don't see it happening. But go ahead.
Can I ask what now that somebody said Rick Geisler, whatever, obviously they got some personal thing, probably blocked him.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, he said Rick Geisler is a liar. I mean, he just did a whole vindication tour. Everybody had him on their podcast saying you were vindicated. everything he said came to fruition.
Yep.
He said they weren't going to have them. They didn't have the money. He's the one who reported they asked for a 10-day grace period to come up with the money. All that came out in the wash at the end. He was 100% right, not a little bit right, 100% right. So how is he a liar? I'm just curious when people make those blanketed statements, like without any context. Like, what are you talking about? What exactly did he lie about? But whatever.
Well, maybe he'll reply back. By the way, guys, maybe we should end the show. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes almost, and I gotta go eat something. But we'll have another show, Mr. BD. Actually, guys, we didn't even have a prediction show for Ngannou versus Joshua.
Yeah, fucking huge heavyweight fight coming up. We didn't even talk about it.
Yeah, G2 made it. Right. Yeah, go ahead.
The Kenyan knocks out Joshua in the 3rd round.
Okay, Jimmy's joking.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm just totally joking. I don't like these kind of fights because it's just, you know what I mean? Here's the thing, though. Can I just say what Ngannou did do that I respect the hell out of him? When Suleiman offered him a 10 position, we're going to rank you number 10. And so Ngannou's like, oh, really? Okay, thank you. So what does that mean? Well, you have to give us 10% of your purse anytime you fight. And he was like, you know what? Pound it. I don't need your fucking rankings.
That's so pathetic, man. Who even pays for this shit? But anyways, yeah.
Well, Suleiman's worth personally $40 million, and he runs that's supposed to be a non-profit, that organization.
I always wonder where they get the money for. Like, how much money are they making, Jimmy?
Well, tons of money. Think about it. Every time, if you're sanctioned by the WBC and you're fighting in a WBC sanctioned fight, doesn't mean you're the champion. You could be ranked number 7, and you could be fighting a guy number 8. But when they say this bout is being sanctioned by the WBC and the IBF, meaning, so when you hear those names mentioned, the fighters are paying a percentage of the purse to those sanctioner bodies to have their fights sanctioned by those sanctioner bodies. So it's not just championship fights.
No.
It's any fight that they sanction. And when it's a big money fight, 10% of whatever Ngannou's making this coming weekend is a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, he doesn't need the belts at this point.
No,
right.
He's just in it for the cash.
All right, guys. Thank you for being on the show. See you next time. Take care. Everybody on YouTube, thank you for also being on, listening, and supporting the show. I think Mr. BDA is going to have another show this week. So hopefully on that show, we will take down your predictions. Yep, that's it. Have a nice day.